Yo, 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 it's your boy, Digo Chino, back at it again. And I just made a little compilation of the best stories on the channel, and hopefully you like this one. Don't forget, on your way out, leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Thank you.
In this video, I have to put a disclaimer on because the stuff that you're about to see are unreal. This person you see is a contestant in a Japanese reality TV show, and this is the story of how the production trapped him in a living hell, fully naked and hungry for food. All of that in front of 17 million people watching him every Sunday evening, going more and more crazy. All of that was happening in the late 90s, and the show also got banned in Japan. We all know that the Japanese television shows can sometimes be a little bit too extreme or violent on the body and on the mind, but in this case they took it really too far. And this is the story of Nasubi.
YouTube に続けるこの企画、先週なすびにすごいものが当たった。するとなすび人生初松茸のかぶりつき、そして
松茸ご飯。
なすび幸せの絶頂。
Before we continue, I just wanted to say real quick, welcome to the Cochino's Bazaar, and I am your host, the Cochino. I will be posting a video every Tuesday and Friday at 6 p.m. Be there. I would appreciate if you like and subscribe, and don't forget to comment down below. The story starts with a production company looking for a young talent in their project. They held auditions and a bunch of people showed up. None of the candidates were the right fit until Nasubi, and as soon as they saw him, they fell in love with his attitude, the way he talked and behaved, and the way he presents himself. From there, the decision was made. Nasubi will be the star of the show. Going in the show, Nasubi believes that he'll be self-recording his daily activities for future potential reviews from the company. So to Nasubi, he was basically just giving reviews on a bunch of products while videotaping the proof, which is himself. The only thing he didn't know was that the production company was about to start broadcasting his content to literally 17 million people all around Japan every Sunday. All of that without him giving his consent. And upon entering the show, we can see that he is in an empty space, an empty apartment, fully naked and only with water and magazines. Pretty terrible, but it's only the beginning.
すると
なんと脱いではいはい全部マジパンツのですか
Now, if he wants to win the game, the rules are twisted. He can only eat whatever he wins from the magazines, and he can only wear whatever he wins from the magazines. And basically, whatever he does and whatever he can only get it out of those magazines. So even if he doesn't have food, well, easy, he's just gonna starve because he didn't win nothing. And all the basic needs of a normal human beings, for him, they're not met because he didn't win all of those basic needs and he's got nothing in that apartment. Basically, no towels, toilet paper, shampoo, soap, food, cooking sets, nothing literally. Damn, I don't know about you guys, but all of this starts to sound kind of evil. I don't know what they were thinking back then, but all of this experiment is wrong, and let's go see why. The show was called Susuno Denpashoten, and it was considered as a live stream of Nasubi in a single room. Little FYI, Nasubi is not even his real name. Nasubi in Japanese means eggplant, and it's actually the production company that came up with this name because they thought it was funny, and his face looked like an eggplant to them, so that's why he got the nickname Nasubi. And so throughout the show, he will starve because he doesn't have food, and he is fully naked for a long time because he doesn't have anything to wear. And in that state, he started to participate in those magazine sweepstakes. The sweepstakes are found in the piles of magazines, and he can enter by mailing the contest applications using the envelopes provided by the production company. And the goal for him was to get 1 million yen so that he wins the game. Then he can exit the room. After the goal was set, Nasubi started sending envelopes after envelopes, and just in his first month, he sent over 5,748 sweepstakes because he literally spent the most of his time just doing that and sending those goddamn sweepstakes. And the thing is, while sending them, he had to wait for at least a whole month before starting to get some prizes. And in that first month, he had basically no food, no coverage, no nothing. And during that time, the production company would start to do everything in their power to actually taunt him and get the most reaction from him for more views, I guess. It's always for that.
すると
はい。
当選か？
どうも、お待たせしました。はい。まずラーメン。なんですか？野菜炒め。はい。全部で1,700円になります。いや、お金ないですよ。いや、頼んでないですよ。すいません、間違えました。
野菜炒めとラーメンのとてもいい匂いだけを残して手前持ちさんは行ってしまわれました。
In this example, a deliveryman actually knocks on the door with ramen just to tell him that he got the wrong apartment and that's actually not for him. And I don't know about you again, but that is evil. And that's not comedy at that point. A few days later, Nasubi finally wins his first prize, and that was 12 pots of fiber jelly, which he completely demolished in a few hours. Followed by that, he gets his second prize, which is 5 kilograms of rice. And you're telling me, oh, he's finally got food and everything, he's gonna have a full belly? Just wait a second. He doesn't have what you truly need to cook the rice. He doesn't have a pot where he can cook the rice. And so in the beginning, he started to eat the rice completely raw because that wasn't his only option until he discovered a way to cook the rice. And that's by putting the rice in that empty jelly container, and he would put that next to the stove so that it could cook by proxy in a way. It would take time for him to cook it, but he would achieve the cooking of the rice.
ガスコンロの近くにお湯に浸した生米を置いて、その付近の熱でどうにかなんねえもんかという実験。
ダメ元で大胆な実験に出たナスビ。そして3時間後。
でもな、どうにもなってるはずねえよな。
果たして実験の結果は？
おちょっと待ってよこれ。おかしになってんじゃないの？ほら、ほら見て。
実験成功。
見て。
神はまたもやナスビに救いの手を差し伸べてくださいました。
Day after day, he kept on winning small prizes like some soap and a canned spaghetti, for example. But he didn't have nothing to open the can with, which is kind of twisted. How you always win something, but you will not be able to use it because you need something else to use it with. Same as getting a TV and not having access to any channel, for example. Plus, The only human connection he's still got with the outside world in general is the knock on the door from the production company that's either giving him something or taking something from him. And through all the applications, he gets it. The moment he gets something worth $1 million yen, then he wins. But 6 months in the game, he only got halfway with 38,000 contest entries, and the show was becoming super popular at the time. And during this time, he kept on winning prizes after prizes. But for example, the prizes were not that practical. For example, he wins a bicycle and he discovers that a bicycle is not that practical inside an apartment, except when you actually transform it into a stationary bike. He's kind of a genius in his way for discovering shit like that. But the regular man, and finally also he gets a piece of clothing. Finally. And guess what he got? He gets a pair of panties. And guess what he did with them?
パンティー
モデルさん使用済みパンティーを履いて全裸生活とお別れしようとしたところ、
ちょっと厳しいね。
小さすぎて履けなかった。
じゃあねちょっとね。
そして再び全裸生活に戻った。果たして今回は大丈夫か？
Basically, throughout the whole experiment, he will not wear clothes or almost none. That is basically cruel right there too. And he finally gets a toothbrush and a toothpaste 3 months after he gets in, and he finally brushes his teeth. But after all of this, people started to actually finding out where Nasubi was and where the apartment was. And now we are straight up in kidnapping, because as soon as the production knew that, they went to Nasubi, they blindfolded him, got him in a car, and transported him to another place 5 hours away from the original place to a new apartment. And in the apartment, as soon as they removed the blindfold for him, he thought he was actually winning the game maybe, and he was done with it. But no, he actually got in the same space again, in the same environment, in the same apartment with exactly the same rules, and he gotta just keep on the game.
久しぶりだ。
この時ナスビは思った。
終わりですか。100万いったんですか。いってない。何しにいらしたんですか。
そして
意味がわからないんですけど、全然。うわ
プロデューサーはナスビに毛布をかけて外に連れ出そうとする。
うわ外の空気だ。5ヶ月ぶりに吸った外の空気、嬉しいな。
そして
車やった、動いてる動いてる。
車で移動。
5ヶ月ぶりに。
そして到着。ナスビが連れてこられたのは。
映していいよ。いいっすか。
部屋の雰囲気は多少異なるものの、どっからどう見ても5ヶ月間慣れ親しんでいるいつもの風景。
And this time, people could also view him on live stream online, and people from the production company would get hired just to stay there in front of the camera and get the camera out of focus from his junk, if you know what I mean. Now in the new location, he still has some way to go, and in 3 months, he finally gets to his goal, but to do so, he submits another 17,000 entries, and so in total, we are at 55,000 entries in total. Oh boy, that's a lot of entries. In the 3 months, he managed to win a watermelon, a VHS player that will connect him to the TV, and a PlayStation that he will play for 4 days straight, and a ticket to the Spice Girls movie too. But then he got hit with bad luck because he goes hungry for weeks because he doesn't win no food. The production company, to resolve the actual problem, decides to relocate him a second time to a new spot. So this is gonna be the third spot, to maybe push his look and see if he can win something out of this new spot. And for example, he gets a new tent, but in the matter of a few days he already got rid of it. Then he finally wins a set of very expensive tires with 10,000 yen, and he finally wins the game with over 1 million yen in winnings and a small bag of rice. And finally, after 335 days, Nasubi is finally free.
ゴールを祝いクラッカーで祝福。しかしナスビは
何ですか。
なかなか気づいてくれない。
マジっすか。本当に本当に本当に本当ですか。ああ、やった。
電波少年的検証生活、ナスビゴール。
Yay! Psych. Did you think they were gonna let go their most popular show just like that? No, no, no. The production company comes at night and tells him that he actually won the game and now it's time to celebrate and go on a trip to Korea. And upon finally going to that trip, he has to wear clothes, and when he wears his clothes, we can see that he feels uneasy when he wears his clothes on.
まずは右足。
シャキン。
そして左足。
じゃあこれを腰まで上げますよ。
ここでお世話になったナスビマークと最後のお別れです。
装着完了。これが靴下というものです。
この後もゴールの喜びをじっくりと味わいながら1枚ずつ服を身につけていくナスビ。
シャキン。
そして全ての着衣が完了した頃には朝になっていた。
やりました。
しかし
As he gets there, he enjoys his life. Nasubi has fun. He goes around, sees people around, goes back to society.
韓国といえば
焼肉。
検証日記昨年11月13日のページを見てみると、
焼肉食いてー。
それをわざわざ覚えてくださってありがとうございます。
第2弾は本場韓国で焼肉。しかも生まれて初めて食べる骨付きカルビにナスビ悶絶。第3弾は
やっぱそうだ。
遊園地。久々の開放感にナスビ身も心もノックアウト。そしておまけ。
ショッピング。
それは韓国の市場で買った壺入りキムチ。しかしこれらは全て新企画の前振りに過ぎなかった。
And he's finally released from all of his duties, but then at the end, he gets blindfolded again and guided to another room. And then, as soon as they remove the blindfold, he sees that he is kind of in the same room again with the same pile of magazines, and they tell him to strip. And this time, it's not in Japan, but it's in Korea. So as soon as they strip him naked, they tell him the rules. The rules are he's gotta do the same thing again all over, but this time, everything is gonna be in Korean, and the goal is for him to get enough money for a plane ticket back to Japan in economy class. He accepts, and then he goes on. So the production company leaves him there with a dictionary as well. And then our friend Nasubi started his sweepstakes again, with the new goal being earning enough for a plane ticket in economy. And after applying for more than 7,000 contests, Nasubi wins the goal he needed. But the production company was still not done with him yet. They come back to him and tell him he needs to make an extra 9,000 yen to upgrade his ticket to business class. Nasubi complies and accomplishes the task in no time by winning 2 bags of incredible rare and expensive tea leaves. Still, for the production company, he achieved his goal way too quick, so they added one more step. Now he has to upgrade his ticket to first class, and Nasubi still complies. After winning an octopus, picture frame, and some skincare, Nasubi finally wins the game. Yay! Now they blindfold him again and they put him in the final box. And in this one, as soon as they actually take off the blindfold, he's actually stripped up again. Then the walls gets pushed out and he actually discovers that he was on stage the whole time in front of a whole bunch of people in the audience. Thousands and thousands. At this point, Nasubi doesn't realize yet, but slowly starts to realize. And he realizes that a lot of people have been watching him. And through his look and his facial expressions, you can see that his state is in total shock. He doesn't believe what's going on actually. Not exist.
なすびおしまい。
Rowan Atkinson is born the 6th January 1955 in Consett, County Durham in England, from parents Eric Atkinson and Ella May. He was brought into the Anglican religion and placed in a preparatory school called Durham Chorister School. And coincidentally, the future Prime Minister of England, Tony Blair, also attended the same school at the same time. And after a few years, he went to St. B's School. He was often bullied for his stuttering in school and most specifically his looks as well. They will call him the alien face. People and his teachers didn't believe in him that much, but he concentrated on science. And after getting excellent grades in science, he was able to land a scholarship in Newcastle University, where he received a bachelor's degree in electrical and electronic engineering in 1975. And at the same time, he was able to obtain a master's degree in electrical engineering at the Queen's College of Oxford. In August 1976, Rowan Atkinson wins the Oxford Review with his PhD study at the Edinburgh Festival Fringe. And at the same time, he already started to write and debuted to perform sketches in Oxford by the Etceteras, the review group of the Experimental Theatre Club, and the Oxford University Dramatic Society. And it's precisely in those university years where his love for comedy started to waken up. And the more he watched, the more he craved. He used to watch Beyond the Fringe by Peter Cook, Dudley Moore, Jonathan Miller, and Alan Bennett. And he states, he adored the work of John Cleese because he finds him, and he states, he was very physical, very physical and very angry. End of quote. He was also very influenced by Peter Sellers, the actor from The Pink Panther, Charlie Chaplin, Buster Keaton, Harold Lloyd, Jack Stotty, and Barry Humphries in Dom Edna Evergy, where he states, I love the character. Again, it's the veneer of respectability disguising suburban prejudice of a really quiet, vicious, and dismissive nature. End of quote. And with all this inspiration, he started to work on his stutterness, and by putting himself into different characters in his mind and representing them, at that point he was perfectly able to speak correctly. He started to get out of his comfort zone way more, and all of that was bringing him more attention into the different characters that he can represent. And in 1979, Rowan Atkinson went through a lot of changes, and that was a golden year that started everything. He performed live on stage skits and appeared in the theatrical play The Secret Policeman's Ball, such as
Ainsley, Babcock, Bland, Harthorse, Dint.
And in 1979, he started in a series of comedy show for the BBC Radio 3 called The Atkinson People. He did a one-off pilot for a London weekend television called Canned Laughter. He performed on the third The Secret Policeman's Ball and gained notoriety from it. And that led him to other roles by performing with Elton John, John Cleese, and Kate Bush. He also appeared on Not the 9 O'Clock News in October 1979, which led him to the lead role. He also appeared on Not the 9 O'Clock News in October 1979, which led him to the lead role in the BBC mock historical comedy called Blackadder. And after a great debut in the entertainment industry, Rowan Atkinson sees that more people are coming to his shows to look at his style of comedy, his revolutionary style of comedy in a way. And with more training and experience on stage, coming in front of different kind of audiences every night basically, he started to polish himself and polish his craft using comical devices such as the articulation of the word B as his pronunciation of Bob. He would say Bob. And with this over-articulation, he could compensate for his stutterness in a way, and by getting into those different characters that he's not, obviously. He used to be compared to Buster Keaton in his comedy style, but Atkinson's rely more on dialogue and stand-up comedy based more on a monologue. This talent later led him to be called the man with the rubber face. Later on in 1983, he had a supporting part in James Bond titled Never Say Never Again and a leading role in Dead on Time. Atkinson also co-writes a series called Blackadder, who was set in the medieval period. This show was so good and so liked by all of the audience that they made Blackadder 2 in 1986. Then after that, Blackadder 3 in 1987, and then Blackadder the fourth in 1989, and then last but not least Blackadder the fifth in 1999, and all of that with more specials here and there about Christmas and all that stuff. And personally, this was one of the best entertainment shows growing up that everybody used to watch at the same time, and you used to laugh so hard at his style of comedy on TV. In 1984, Atkinson appeared in a West End version of the comedy play The Nerd alongside a 10-year-old Christian Bale. And by the end of the 80s, he meets Sunatra Sastry, and they get married in February 1990. And they have 2 beautiful children. And also, he wins an Oscar with a short film called The Appointments of Dennis Jennings. Then, finally, in 1990, after many years of training and experience and perfecting his craft, Mr. Bean appeared on New Year's Day in a half-hour special on Thomas Television. And it was an instant hit because, and I quote, "The essence of Mr. Bean is that he's entirely selfish and self-centered and doesn't actually acknowledge the outside world. He's a child in a man's body, which is what most visual comedians are about." Stan Laurel, Chaplin, Benny Hill. End of quote. And in that same year, he also appeared in many other shows, for example, like The Witches, and also as a racing driver in the television play called Full Throttle. Generally in between the first half of the 90s, Rowan Atkinson appeared in many things such as The Hot Shots Part 2, a parody of Rambo 3, The 4 Weddings and a Funeral in 1994, The Lion King with the voice of Zazu, and he mostly made many episodes of the Mr. Bean show, which led him to make a Mr. Bean movie in 1997, and then a second one called Mr. Bean's Holiday in 2007. An animated version of the show also made in 2014 that extended into 5 series until 2019 worldwide. And with Mr. Bean's fame and perfect acting, he acted in more and more plays such as The Curse of the Fatal Death in 1999, and of course more movies and TV shows like The Thin Blue Line in between 1995 and 1996. Then comes 2000s, and Rowan Atkinson is at the top of his craft. He starts to be in more and more and more mainstream movies and TV shows, and his notoriety as one of the best comedians of our era is only but building up and up and up. Through the 2000s, he appears in Rat Race, Scooby-Doo, Love Actually, Keeping Mom, and he played in the West End revival of the musical Oliver. In 2001, Atkinson is on holiday going to Kenya. But going there, he was in his private jet with his pilot, and the pilot fainted for some reason. And Atkinson had at that point to take the rein and keep the plane up until the pilot comes out of his state of sickness or whatever happened to him. Damn, Roman. Respect. Could you imagine his stress level at that point though? Not good. And in 2003, he started his first parody of James Bond called Johnny English. The movie was so successful that it was followed by a second one in 2011 and then a third one in 2018. Rowan Atkinson is a big fanatic of cars. He owned a Honda NSX, an Audi A8, a Skoda Superb, and a Honda Civic Hybrid. With that, he also owned a McLaren F1 that he crashed many times. And from the damages of one of the accidents, it was recorded that it was the largest sum insurance had to pay for the repairs of a car. And they paid literally £910,000. He also crashed another car in 2001, and this one was an Aston Martin V8 Zagato, while racing in the Aston Martin Owners Club, and he hates Porsches with passion. It's incredible. He also appeared in an episode of Top Gear in July 2011, driving a Kia, and he did the track in 1 minute 42 seconds. In 2012, Mr. Bean appears at the Summer Olympics opening ceremony in a funny comedy sketch, and in that same year, in November, Rowan Atkinson got sick of his same old character and says, and I quote, "The stuff that has been most commercially successful for me, basically quite physical, quite childish. I increasingly feel I'm going to do a lot less. Apart from the fact that your physical ability starts to decline, I also think someone in their 50s being childlike becomes a little sad. You've got to be careful." End of quote. But then, in between 2014 and 2019, Rowan would reappear on TV, say that he's basically quitting being Mr. Bean, and a few moments later he would reappear as Mr. Bean in something like a TV commercial or a movie, for example. He did a TV commercial with Snickers back in 2014, and then he reappeared in a Chinese film called Huan Li Chi Zhu Ten, and he was reappearing as Mr. Bean in that movie as well, and also in a commercial for Emirati. Then in 2013, he took a titular role in a 12-week production of the Simon Gray play, and in that same year, at the age of 58 years old, he began an affair with a 32-year-old comedian called Louise Ford, and he started the separation process from his current wife to finally divorce in 2015 and be with Louise Ford, which he has a kid with right now. Overall, Rowan Atkinson had a very fulfilling life in the entertainment industry and in his personal life as well, overcoming everything he had to overcome and more, to the point where right now currently he is the maestro of the silent comedy genre. In October 2018, Atkinson received YouTube's Diamond Play button for his channel, surpassing 10 million subscribers on the video platform, among the most watched channels in the world in 2018, with more than 6.5 million views. And in April 2023, he stars in Wonka from the novel Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Guess everybody knows already. Rowan Atkinson is a legend, and Mr. Bean is an icon. Thank you for many years of laughter, and hopefully many more to come in the future. I will leave you all with all of his links back in the description below. This was the story of Mr. Bean, Rowan Atkinson. Thank you for watching until the end.
No, not again. Not this year. You're going as my wingman. Flight suit up.
Neil Patrick Harris, aka NPH for short, is born in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and he grew up in Ruidoso, New Mexico with his older brother and their parents. He attended La Cueva High School in Albuquerque, graduated in 1995 with high honors, which he attributes to being privately tutored half the school year while on the set already. As a child, he was busy all the time, and from here on now, we're gonna start referring to him not as Neil Patrick Harris every time because it's kind of long, but NPH. Yo, how you doing? Your boy Cochino here, back with a new video again for this week, where I'll be talking about one of the most famous actors of our era. And without further ado, let's get started into the story of Neil Patrick Harris, aka NPH. Let's go! NPH started as a child actor discovered at a drama camp in Las Cruces, New Mexico, and from there he got casted for a role in Clara's Heart, and the same year he also had another role in Purple's People Eater, a children's fantasy story. In 1989, NPH plays a role in Doggy Hauser for 4 seasons straight up.
The teenage years are full of firsts. Whoa. First driving test.
What are you doing?
First kiss. First breakup.
Well, maybe you should be out with him. Maybe.
And if you're Doogie Howser, your first retroperitoneal hematoma.
Alert the surgical team and call the blood bank. Tell them we need 4 units of O negative right away.
Being a teenager can be difficult, even if you're a doctor. Neil Patrick Harris stars as Doogie Howser and
Followed by a few guest apparitions in a show called Murder.
Dad, I'm doing my best.
Don't blow smoke at me.
His first role as an adult was in 1995 in Animal Room, where he portrayed a teenager. Then from 1999 to 2000, he stars in the NBC's sitcom Stark Raven Mad, counting 22 episodes. And at the same time, he acted in Snowbound, The Jim and Jennifer Stolpa Story, My Antonia, The Christmas Wish, Joan of Arc, The Wedding Dress, The Christmas Blessing, The Next Best Thing, The Undercover Brother, and Starship Troopers.
Your basic arachnid warrior isn't too smart, but you can blow off a limb. It's still 86% combat effective. Here's a tip. Aim for the nerve stem and put it down for good.
Young NPH was super talented since the very beginning of his career as an actor. He's been performing like a champ since the beginning. He also performed in a few Broadway musicals and dramas like in Sweeney Todd, Proof, and Cabaret. And for his last role, he was named the top drawing headliner in the role of the MC by gueststarcasting.com. And during all of this time, NPH was in a relationship with Christine Taylor from 1997 until 1998. Which I want you to keep in mind for later. That's going to be interesting to see. Then, from 2004, he started to act in many more plays, many more roles in movies and TV shows in general, specifically due to one of his roles in a musical called Assassins. And also, he appeared in 2009 in an episode of the Saturday Night Live, which he hosted.
See how complicated it was till I was in the center of it, like a donut hole.
You mean like the whole of a donut?
Well, yes, a donut hole is the center, and I am in the center of that situation.
And followed by that, he acted in one of the most famous shows ever, where he was portraying a hyper-womanizer character in that movie, which is called Harold and Kumar Go to White Castle. And I bet a bunch of people are gonna remember that movie, which is also considered a stoner movie.
Dude, I don't even know where the fuck I am right now. I was at this party earlier tonight and some guy hooked me up with this incredible X, and next thing I know I'm being thrown out of a moving car. I've been tripping balls ever since.
That's crazy, dude. You know, we've been having a pretty crazy night too. We've just been driving around looking for White Castle, but we keep getting sidetracked.
Yeah, dude, you fascinate me. Forget.
That was interesting, right? Plus, the Harold and Kumar movies right now have legendary status. Even though they aged a little bit with time, they are still a great saga to watch in general, and especially not with kids around, if you know what I'm talking about. And following the first Harold and Kumar, NPH comes back later for another role in the very Harold and Kumar 3D Christmas. And let me just tell you something about those movies. The movie became one of my special movies to watch during Christmas time. And if you don't have any idea, or if you are out of idea for the next Christmas, hopefully you watch this Harold and Kumar, because it's amazing and crazy to watch. Trust me on that.
Jesus, what a cock block. Still doesn't explain the gay thing.
You're not gay, motherfucker.
At all.
Yeah, that's a little something we magicians like to call misdirection. A little trick I learned from my man Clay Aiken.
What? Clay Aiken's not gay?
Are you kidding? Clay's the biggest coos hound I know. That guy gets mad gash.
And then, from 2005 until 2014, NPH plays his most prestigious role ever, which is Barney Stinson, in a show called How I Met Your Mother, show that I absolutely loved watching growing up. And literally, I watched, at some point in my life, I watched that show on repeat.
Ted, you know what's in the back of your brain?
Oh, great. Here comes little Barney speech.
Behind a curtain, in a dark little room, secretly controlling your every move?
A little Barney.
A little Barney. And you know what he said? Ted,
You will bring no dates to this wedding. You will hit on drunk bridesmaids with actual-size Barney.
From 2005 to 2014, NPH played Barney Stinson, a serial womanizer in the CBS television show How I Met Your Mother, and the character was absolutely amazing to watch in every season and every episode. The actor had so much talent that by himself he made the show, in a way.
I'm psyched. What's that? Marshall, I should feel tremors of psychitude rock my body like a seizure. That was like a declawed pregnant cat on a porch swing idly swatting at a fly on a lazy Sunday afternoon.
And due to his exploits in the show, he earned many Emmy nominations every year from 2007 to 2010, and he wins 2 Emmy Awards at the Creative Arts Emmy Awards ceremony, one of which was for his guest performance in the TV series Glee. He also makes a short appearance in The Howard Stern Show, where he precisely discussed his previous relationship with Christine Taylor, and where he said that from that relationship he knew he was gay. He also said that he truly publicly came out in 2006 and came out as gay to everybody, and I quote, "I am happy to dispel any rumors or misconceptions, and I'm quite proud to say that I am very content gay man living my life to the fullest and feel most fortunate to be working with wonderful people in the business I love." End of quote. NPH is in a relationship with David Burke since 2004, and they officially got married in 2014 in Italy. They got officiated by Pamela Freeman, the longtime director of How I Met Your Mother, and Elton John was also performing during the wedding ceremony. Pretty amazing, you tell me. The couple had in 2010 2 twins from a surrogate mother, a boy and a girl, and at the same time, same year, he directs a production of the rich musical Brent at the Hollywood Bowl. And in 2009, I hope you're ready for this one because NPH hosted a lot of shows throughout all of his career. Let's go. He hosted the 7th annual TV Land Awards and appeared as a guest judge on season 9 of American Idol. During the same year, he also hosted the 61st Primetime Emmy Awards, and he also hosted the 65th Primetime Emmy Awards again in 2013. He hosted the Spike Video Game Awards in 2010, and he also hosted the Tony Awards 4 times in 2009, 2011, 2012, and 2013. And due to his many Tony Award hosting, he earned 4 Primetime Emmy Awards in 2010, 2012, 2013, and 2014. Damn, that was a long list, but hey, NPH is pretty amazing.
I'd like to deliver a very important message on behalf of all of us who care so deeply about this community. If you've seen a show, then you already know how magical theater can be. It's a 2-hour live-action, barely affordable, unlip-synced version of Glee. So this song goes out to the rest of you, those who've never seen theater before. Because Broadway has never been broader. It's not just for gays anymore.
At the same time, NPH was also acting in many different other things, such as a role in the musical web series Dr. Horrible's Sing-Along Blog. He appeared in a musical episode of Batman the Brave and the Bold, premiered on Cartoon Network. He played the lead role in Stephen Sondheim Company. He directed The Expert at the Card Table Stages Eddie, and after that he starred some voice acting roles like in the animated film Batman Under the Red Hood and in The Cats and Dogs, The Revenge of the Kitty Galore, also followed by a voice acting in Cloudy with a Small Chance of Meatballs. And still in the How I Met Your Mother era, where he was acting still, NPH had so much power and so much energy that he could actually do multiple things at the same time. So at the same time that he was shooting for How I Met Your Mother, he would actually do other things at the same time. And it's amazing to watch him grow as an actor and a performer in the movie and TV industry. He played the lead in the indie comedy The Best and the Brightest, followed by a role in The Smurfs in 2011 and a second one in 2013. NPH also had a titular role in the first Broadway production of the rock musical Hedwig and the Angry Inch from March through August of 2014. And for this role, guess what again? He received a Tony Award for Best Actor in a Musical this time. Variety also came out and said, and I quote, "It's astonishing how polished a physical performance Harris gives, channeling his inner rocket along with Iggy Pop and Lou Reed by way of Ramones. He carries off some advanced dance and acrobatic moves." End of quote. And fun fact, he was also asked to be the next David Letterman in The Late Show on CBS, but he totally declined it. He was like, that's not for him. And at the same time, which I found funny, he also got asked to be the next Craig Ferguson in The Late Show. And guess what again? He declined it. And why? Because he always thought those shows were super boring, which I thought from the very beginning. After his most famous role in the show, How I Met Your Mother, NPH decided to release a memoir titled Neil Patrick Harris, Choose Your Own Autobiography, which spent 2 weeks on the New York Times bestseller list. And right after that, in 2015, NPH hosted a live variety series called Best Time Ever with Neil Patrick Harris on NBC. And followed by that, in 2016, he gets casted on Netflix series of unfortunate events as Count Olaf.
I've been so lonely since I lost my left leg.
You're not Dr. Montgomery.
Oh, my spleen! I think you ruptured him.
I've been fitted with a wooden prosthetic.
How did it happen?
Used half of an old broom.
This one is for me, and this one is for the rest of you.
Your generosity is noted, Stefano.
My name is not anything but Stefano.
Show that I absolutely loved and hope you go watch it. It's still available on Netflix. Then in 2017, NPH hosted The Genius Jr. on NBC. And then he appeared in the latest Matrix that came out not too long ago, the fourth Matrix. And I totally suggest, if you don't have anything to do, go watch Lee. NPH stars in many more things. He was in the British drama series It's a Sin, starred in the Netflix series Uncoupled, starred in The Toy Maker in the third and final special of Doctor Who, and he also joined the New York City Center Encore's presentation, and he joined the cast of Peter Pan Goes Wrong. And let me not forget, he also was a judge in Australia's Got Talent Challengers and Champion in 2021. NPH is many things. He is an actor, a singer, a writer, a producer, a TV host, a great performer in theater, and he also supports many charities, organizations, and foundations like the Global Green Organization, Entertainment Industry Foundation, Live Out Loud Organization, Alex's Lemonade Stand Foundation, Real Medicine Foundation, and many, many more. NPH was named one of the Times Magazine's 100 most influential people in 2010, and through his career he received many awards, and due to that he will be remembered as a great performer in the history of entertainment. And this was the story of Neil Patrick Harris, aka NPH.
Oh, I'm evil at a drive-thru, man, except the one by my house, because they know me. I mean, they really know me. I could show up at 2 in the morning or 2 in the afternoon, you know. Welcome to McDonald's, how can I help you? Yeah, let me have... Pull up. I did an order. Gabriel, pull up. Gotcha, bitch.
Gabriel Iglesias, Mr. Flavi. I absolutely adore this guy. This comedian is super talented, and I hope you are ready for his story. Martin! Welcome to the Guccino's Bazaar, everybody, and I am your host, your humble Guccino. How you doing?
How you doing?
Back with a new video, and this story is gonna be amazing, and I hope you're ready. And if you're not already subscribed to the channel, I invite you to do it right now. That way it's already out of the way. You can do it. Órale, cabrón. Gabriel Iglesias is an American actor and stand-up comedian that produced many specials for television like Comedy Central, Netflix, and I'm Not Fat, I'm Fluffy and Hot. He played in many live actions and animated TV shows and films, and his whole ensemble makes him one of the greatest artists of our era. Next to some of the biggest names such as Jerry Seinfeld, Chris Rock, and Lorne Michaels, Iglesias is one of the top 10 most highly paid comedians in all of history, with more than 1 billion views on YouTube by himself and more than 25 million followers around all of his social media platforms. But before that, let's go back a bit. Mr. Fluffy, aka Gabriel Iglesias, was born in July 1976 in San Diego, California, to Esther Mendez and Jesus Iglesias. He mostly grew up with his single mother in a Mexican household, and growing up for Gabriel was not that easy, specifically since he had to move to multiple places such as Riverside, Corona, Santa Ana, and Baldwin Park before finally settling down in Section 8 in Long Beach, where he spent most of his youth. During his childhood, he started to develop a strong sense of humor to deal with the obstacles he was confronted. Before the fame, Mr. Fluffy was working for a cell phone company, but at some point he's had enough and he decided to quit and go full-time as a comedian. In 1997, he decided to go full-time into comedy and starts to go to multiple places such as biker bars and hole-in-the-wall joints to perform and start to get some experience in the comedy world. At the same time, he gets evicted from his home and loses his car, but that did not stop him to pursue his dream. He kept on going to different clubs around the country to perform, and the more and more he performed, the more and more his experience grew to the point where he started getting some recognition.
And the funny part is every single entrance has a digital greeting system that talks to you, which messes people up the first time because when you walk in, you don't expect to hear,
"Welcome to the Ontario Mills Fashion Center, Area 1, Section 2.
There's people like, but see, I knew something was fishy. I knew something was wrong because my friend Felipe and I walked in and was like,
Bienvenidos al Mall de Ontario, eh?"
I said, that's a hell of a coincidence. At least I thought it was until we saw this black guy walk in.
Yo, dog, welcome to the mall.
Gabriel's comedy style is a mixture of storytelling, parodies, characters, and sound effects that bring his personal experiences to life on stage on every performance, which makes him a very unique talent in the comedy world. Also, don't forget about the Hawaiian shirts. Those are cool.
You're not a gang member wearing a Hawaiian shirt. Nobody's gonna take you serious. You know, where you from? Oh, Honolulu, eh?
In 2000, I know, it's already 24 years ago. Dang. Fluffy gets picked up for the 6th season of the Nickelodeon sketch comedy series All That, co-starring Amanda Bynes and Nick Cannon. And in the same year, he also became a contestant on the 4th season of reality TV series Last Comic Standing, which he was on, and he survived until becoming one of the 8th final comics.
Check this out. I get pulled over one night, coming out of a Krispy Kreme drive-thru. Don't get ahead of me, listen. I made a left turn instead of making a right, but I wasn't paying attention because I had a box, right? I was like, oh, you're gonna get it when you get home. You've been so bad. So I went the wrong way, right? Sure enough.
But the production decided to disqualify him because he smuggled a BlackBerry to talk with friends and family, which violated the rules of the show. Pretty corny, Mr. Fluffy, but no one can stop the Fluffy. In 2007, Mr. Fluffy voices an entire Mexican family in Padre de Familia, a 6th episode of the Fox TV animated comedy Family Guy. And the same year, he began voicing a recurring set of identical twin characters on The Emperor's New School, a Disney animated series that Gabriel describes as his favorite voice work.
Hi there! Today's public service tip is cheaters never prosper. Well, not never. 9 out of 10 don't. But if you're that 1 in 10, more power to ya. Kidding. Theme music.
And you're probably asking yourself why. Why do I keep calling him Fluffy? Well, very funny story. Throughout his many years in comedy, Mr. Iglesias often refers to his weight and his body in general to his style of comedy, and he often references himself as fluffy by saying, "I'm not fat, I'm fluffy." And if you want to know, there is a scale. The scale goes big, healthy, husky, fluffy, damn, and oh hell no, that he added in 2009.
I used to say that there were 5 levels of fatness. Reason why I say used to say is because now there are 6. I met the new one in Las Cruces. The original 5 levels are big, healthy, husky, fluffy, and damn. People ask, what could be bigger than damn? The new level's called, oh hell no.
God have mercy upon us.
Fluffy's crazy. Fluffy did his first special in 2008 and called Hot and Fluffy. Then 2 more specials in 2009 called I'm Not Fat, I Am Fluffy. And we love Fluffy. And Fluffy is making bank. He goes around all of the country and he is making that money while getting more and way more recognition, which led him to another special in 2011. Iglesias debuts Gabriel Iglesias Presents Stand-Up Revolution, a stand-up series that Fluffy produced and hosted for 3 seasons before ending in 2014. And while filming for his stand-up revolution, he also co-hosted 6 episodes of Equals 3 and played a strip club DJ and drug dealer in Magic Mike in 2012. From here, Fluffy's career started to explode. He voices Ned and Zed in the 2013 Disney Toon Studios film Planes, voiced a character in The Nut Job and El Americano the movie. And little FYI, sometimes on some of Gabriel's social platforms, he sometimes posts a picture of him and his dog, Bruno. And everybody loves Bruno.
I know, it's crazy, right? You're like, you love your dog so much, you take him everywhere. Yeah, because they appreciate it and they don't talk back. Damn!
Followed by that, he had a role in Haunted House 2, Fluffy's Food Adventures for 3 seasons on Fuse, The Fluffy Movie, Key and Peele, Cristela, Narcos, Funny You Should Ask, Scooby-Doo, and he voiced many movies and TV shows such as In the Book of Life, Norm of the North, Smurfs the Movie, The Star, Ferdinand, Show Dogs, Ugly Dolls, Space Jam the second one, Ice Age The Great Egg Escapade, Paws of Fury The Legend of Hank, Diary of a Wimpy Kid Christmas. At the same time, Fluffy was not losing any minute. While his acting career was going smoothly, he also released another special in 2013 called Aloha Fluffy, another one in 2016 called I Am Sorry for What I Said When I Was Hungry, another special in 2019 called One Show Fits All, and lastly in 2022 with Stadium Fluffy. And let me tell you something, I have been a fan of Fluffy since 2015 and every one of his specials are just getting better and better every time, with always more and more crazy stories over and over. And the only controversy you will find on him online specifically is the fact that, oh yeah, he had to pay a fine to a venue for spending too much time with the audience while filming a special for Netflix actually. So the dude is a pretty good guy. He also mentioned during one show that he absolutely adores cakes. And guess what happened? People came to his next shows with so many cakes, and he had so many cakes to take home with him. It was crazy, apparently.
By the way, I want to thank the 3 people who brought me a cake personally. I have them in the bag. I really appreciate that. It was very nice of you. The management and the promoters are freaking out. They're like, Gabriel, why do they all bring you cake? I go, because on TV I talked about one time how much I love cake, and so people bring it. My friend Mando got mad. He's like, why don't you talk about hookers?
One little hiccup happens in Gabriel Iglesias' life in 2017. According to People's article, he actually broke up with his long-term girlfriend, Claudia Valdez, which was heartbreaking to him, and he had to cancel all of his next shows that he was going to do. And from that, he also stopped drinking for like 2 years. And despite the breakup, he still maintained a close relationship with his ex-stepson, Frankie. Since 2020, Gabriel has been the star and executive producer of Mr. Iglesias on Netflix, where he plays a public high school teacher. The show was absolutely loved by everyone to the point where in 2020 the show won the best primetime comedy at the Images Award. And since then, he has been a host for Nickelodeon's comedy competition show called Unleashed. He appeared in an episode of Ridiculousness, Hell's Kitchen, The Santa Clauses, Barmageddon, and he voiced in Monsters at Work and Maya and the Three. I would say that Gabriel Iglesias is an amazing comedian and an even better human being, better than the rest of us. Mr. Fluffy was presented the key to the city of El Paso, Texas, and the Beacon of Hope Award from the nonprofit organization of Operation Hope. Fluffy has a dope collection of Volkswagen. He's got more than 30. I'll let you see it.
This is basically a glorified man cave. I call it a 1-bedroom, 80-car garage. It's a big, glorified multi-purpose room. My first car was a 1968 Volkswagen Bus that my brother helped to get me. Probably cost about $400 at the time. I want to say it was like 16, 17. I had the car for a couple years. I pushed it, I drove it, I ran out of gas in it. I mean, none of the gauges worked. I knew how fast I was going if I was next to another car and I could see their speedometer. I'd ask the guy at the light, how fast were you going? Okay, cool, now I know I can go 30.
The heaviest he's been is 445 pounds, which is a lot. And he was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, with his blood sugar sometimes spiking over 300, which is not just a lot, it's enough to send you to the hospital. And the doctor told him that he only had 2 more years to live, so he had to kind of do something about it. And that's why he started to go on a diet where he goes to the gym a lot, he lifts a lot of weights, trains, and he also has a high protein diet where he eats a lot of meat and not that much carbs actually. And that helped him to actually lose more than 100 pounds already. So proud of Mr. Fluffy, or should I call him now Husky. And just like Gabriel says it, and I quote, I usually travel with a pose. I roll deep. I travel like a rapper, but without the artillery. We don't carry guns, we carry cookies. I found that laughter was a form of acceptance, and I really enjoyed that, and I just crave it. End of quote.
No, Mr. Iglesias, don't worry, we'll take care of everything. Just do me a favor, roll over on your side. I'll be right back. So he goes over to the wall and he gets these little gloves. And don't get ahead of me. He puts them on, right, and he comes over and he puts his hand on my side and he goes, does that hurt? Mm-mm. Does that hurt? And then this doctor turned into a magician. Oh, yes, he did. Because his hand disappeared. And it reappeared somewhere way back here. And I'm not gonna tell you guys what he did, but you know what he did. Pokemon.
This man is called Veran Tomic, and this guy is super fascinating. He is born in Paris in 1968 from Croatian and Bosnian descent. And as soon as he was born, his mother fell sick and couldn't take proper care of him. Then at only 1 year old, they sent him to Bosnia, where he lived with his close relatives such as grandmother, uncles, and aunts. Around the age of 8 years old, he started stealing whatever he liked at the time. And at the age of 11 years old, he came back to Paris to live with his parents. His dad was super violent towards him, and his parents would fight a lot, to the point where he had to occupy himself somehow. He was very lonely and always alone, and his only option was to go outside and do whatever he wanted to do, which is steal. So he would go out and steal radios and electronic devices of any kind, and basically anything he could grab on to make easy money and make ends meet. That was until he was 18 years old. Damn, this story is off to a good start, huh? Yeah. Welcome to the channel, everybody. Hope everybody's doing good today. Are you ready for this incredible story? Before we start, don't forget to hit that like button and leave a comment down below. Yeah. Welcome back to the channel, guys. It's the Cochino's Bazaar. Back with a new video, with a new concept, testing a new genre of videos. And hopefully you like it. Let me know down in the comments below. And if you're new to the channel, welcome. So at the age of 18 years old, Tomik went to the army, and he was very skilled at one specific thing, which is climbing. He was one of their top climbers. And a few years later, he left the army and he started thinking of what he's going to be doing next. So he started to combine two of his favorite things to do, which is stealing and climbing. So he would start scouting the whole city of Paris for what to do, what to rob, what's the best opportunity for him. And he mostly concentrated on the richest neighborhoods. He thought he would start stealing from the richest people for many reasons. And he thought that these kind of people were the most pretentious people he could ever see, to the point where money doesn't have any value to them. And the only way they know how to enjoy their life is by spending a lot of money on stuff like Ferraris and expensive items. So he figured, why not steal from them? And that's when he started to figure out something essential in the city of Paris. The higher you go, the less security people have. So he would climb all the way to the roofs with no protection, no help whatsoever. And from that, he'll start jumping from roof to roof, from building to building, locating what's the best opportunity for him. And when he gets his opportunity, when he sees an open door balcony or a window, and when he can see that he can get in, that's it. He gets into the luxurious apartments. He gets in the apartments when the owners are still in. That way, he makes sure that the security alarms in the place are not on because the owners are in. So he walks super slow and doesn't make a sound. His motto is to never hurt anybody while he's robbing them. And everything he hopes for is that they don't catch him in the act, which didn't happen, of course. So he would take all the jewelry and everything he can find and get out without hurting anybody. And when he would hit the jackpot and make a lot of money, he would spend it all on entertainment, women, alcohol, and drugs. Hey, easy money should be spent quick and easy. After some time, rich people started to invest into paintings more. So he started to get interested in them as well and study them to the point where he would appreciate them as well. One time, he gets into an apartment and finds 3 Renoirs worth around $12 million in total. But, of course, when he sold them, this caused him to go to jail because he got caught. And his face was on all the news platforms at the time, and they were calling him the French Spider-Man because of his amazing abilities. Then between 1994 and 2005, he was going in and out of jail. And every time he would steal again and again and again. He's always stolen from the rich, and he never regretted it. He started to get some respect in the industry, and even the police respected his work. A few years later, he became the biggest burglar in Paris. In April 2010, he was working with an antiques dealer called Corvez, and that year he gave him a list of antiques he wanted him to steal and 40 names on them. After that, our friend Tomik decided to go around the city and see where the paintings might be located. Then throughout his research, he found out that a lot of the pieces on his list were in the Museum of Modern Arts in Paris, which is one of the biggest museums of modern and contemporary art in Europe. So he goes back to Corvez and tells him what he found. And then Corvez told him that for every painting he might bring him, it's going to be $50,000 each. And that's all he needed to know. Tomik goes on his way, scouts the museum for a few nights, and figures how the security officers work and how every 2 hours they go around to kind of check on everything in the museum. And that's when he found his opportunity. So he went to the window, and so he figured as well that the security system with some of the cameras were faulty, so he had a chance. So he figured that he can go through from the window by unhooking some of the screws on the windows and get the window out so that he can get in the museum at night. So every night for 6 nights in a row, he would come to the museum, hide himself in a black sheet so that no one sees what he's actually doing, and he would unhook the screws on the window. And at the night number 6, he decided it was time. So he took the window out, got in the museum, and he started on stealing. And at first he sees the Fernand Léger. He picks it up, brings it outside next to a wall where no one can pretty much see the painting, and then goes back in. Then he picks up the Matisse, the Pastoral, and he took also a Picasso and a Braque. So he took all of them, went outside, and then went again for a 3rd time. But this time he went to the 3rd floor, and that's where he found the Modigliani. And at that point, as soon as he picked it up, he heard a noise, probably from a security officer. So he kind of got scared and took off with the Modigliani. So he went outside with all 5 paintings, took off the frames, went and put the paintings in his car. So he started driving, he sees a police checkpoint, and they tell him to keep on going. So he keeps on going. And then since it was still 5 o'clock in the morning, he decided to actually park and wait for traffic around like 7 or 8 o'clock. So he just parked, went into the back of his car, and just started on getting mesmerized with all the paintings he just stole. After that, after traffic started, he went on his way and went to meet Corvez in a parking lot. And as soon as he met Corvez, he gave him the paintings, and Corvez told him that he will get his money in a few days. Throughout the whole burglary, Tomik didn't leave a trace, didn't leave nothing behind him that can trace back to him. So the police had no way of really finding out that it was actually him. And a few days later, Tomik goes to see Corvez for the money. Corvez tells him that he only has 40,000 on him at the moment, and he decided to give him that already. And he told him that the rest of his money, meaning the $210,000, were coming his way in a few days still. So he decided to take the money, and he went on his way, partied, living like crazy, going to the best restaurants, and partying like no tomorrow. And in a few months, he's already spent all the money. So he had to go get the rest of the money from Corvez, and he decided to go to his shop. But at that point, he was being followed by some police officers that just wanted to check on him and see if the French Spider-Man is not up to no good again. So they saw him go into Corvez's shop. And they started asking themselves, like, why those 2 people are actually connected. So they saw him get in contact with Mr. Jean-Michel Corvez, the antiques dealer. Corvez told him that the money is coming, but in the meantime, he can take care of other robberies and other heists. And with no choice left, he decided to take on a few jobs he had for him. At that point, the police started to investigate the both of them because it's weird that Tomik and Corvez had a relationship, knowing that Corvez was living a very bourgeois kind of life where he had a big house, big cars, a lot of cars, and a lot of properties in general. So it was kind of just weird for those 2 to have a relationship. And after more investigating, they also found a 3rd person in the group. And this person was called Jonathan Byrne. And after figuring that all 3 of them were connected, they started to dig even deeper. So one night, they followed Tomik all over the city, hoping to catch him in the act. But he was kind of hard to trace, but they still made it. And on Avenue Montaigne, he started scouting, and he started to climb up a few buildings and a few roofs to kind of find his opportunity. And that's where he sees a very luxurious apartment that he already robbed in the past, and he saw his opportunity. A window opened that he got through, and in that apartment he was able to steal a lot. He was able to steal a Metzinger, a Pissarro, a galleon, and some jewelry and a few watches. Everything that he took that night was literally worth around like $2 million. Then he gets back to his car, he puts the stuff in his trunk, and he started on driving back to his home. But the thing that he didn't notice is that he was literally being tracked by the cops that were literally behind him. So as soon as he started driving, they were driving on him, and as soon as he pulls up to his house, the cops pull him over and find out what he's got in the trunk, which means everything that he's stolen. Tomek was very calm, and he told them exactly what he stole, where he stole it from, who he stole it from, at what time, and how. And at that point, even the police started to show him respect because he literally gave them everything they needed. And at that point, they arrest everybody in the chain. They get Tomek, they get Corvez, they get Jonathan, and they started investigating them. But as soon as they started to investigate, Tomek actually decided to tell everything. And so, because he didn't get paid the amount of $200,000 that he still owed to Corvez, he decided to spill everything. He told the police officers that it was him who actually pulled on the heist of the 5 masterpieces. And after he said what he said, they started to investigate way more onto Mr. Corvez and Mr. Jonathan, to the point where now they know that the last person to have seen the paintings is Mr. Jonathan Beer. And guess what he did with the paintings? He says that in a moment of craziness and pure anxiousness, he took the paintings and destroyed them and threw them in a trash, which no one can prove and no one believes, because it is impossible. Like, why would somebody even do something like that? So the paintings go missing, and all 3 of them goes to jail. Jonathan for 6 years, Corvez for 7, and Mr. Tomek for 8 years in the prison of Fresnes. After a few years, Tomek gets out of prison. He is 55 years old and still can climb buildings, and is still looking to rebuild himself into a better man. Masterpieces worth $100 million are still missing, but the hope of getting them back one day is alive, because it's impossible to have destroyed them. They are hidden somewhere, I am sure, and they will turn up one day in the future. This was the story of Varane Tomek, the French Spider-Man and the biggest heist in the modern art world. Ponyo, Porco Rosso, Princess Mononoke, Totoro. This video is gonna be amazing to make, and this story starts during the Second World War. Japan is getting bombarded by the US and entire cities are destroyed. And here we got a picture of a brother in total disaster. Just remember this picture for now, it will be super important for later. And the little man you see in the picture is Isao Takata. He is born in a poor family right before the end of the war. And even though he lived through a lot during the war, he will keep a picture in mind of all of that happened closely in mind. Next, Isao goes to the University of Tokyo and he studies the French literature. And you're going to ask me, why does he want to study that specifically? He loves realism so much that he found that in the French literature, there is so much of it and so much content about that, so he decided to study it. He's also watching a ton of animation movies like Disney's and The King of the Mockingbird, which was a huge inspiration for him. The richness of these animated movies
inspired him so much in terms of how close they actually get to how real the situation is actually. And the barrier between reality and fantasy gets thinner and thinner actually. And that makes every image in the movie even more precious, innovative, and inventive, with a super meaning when you look deeper and deeper inside those images. After the end of his studies at the University of Tokyo, he goes to work in the biggest Japanese animation studio called the Toei, and he was first hired to sweep the floor. From there, he went on to become an assistant, and he kept on growing and going up the ladder until he started to create his first animation series in the 60s called Ken the Wolf Child. And since the making of that series, Isao completely loved everything about the whole process. He loved the people, he loved the work, he loved the animation, he loved making everything about that series, to the point where he actually became the vice president of the animators syndicate to protect actually the co-workers in case of disagreements with the studios. And in fact, they had an altercation. They had a fight. They were wrestling. Sorry, I got too excited. In the 60s, Isao Takata was leading a protest against the Toei, and at the same time, he will make an amazing encounter during the protest. He will meet a young animator called Hayao Miyazaki. And Hayao grew up in a rich family that was making special parts for planes for the Japanese army during World War II. He grew up watching his dad and his employees handling big machines, and he was fascinated by that. Even though on a deeper level he hated the fact that his dad was making something dangerous that will kill people afterward. Young Miyazaki also loses his mom when he was very young due to incurable tuberculosis, and while looking for the comfort of her mom, he actually found comfort in anime and in manga. He discovered the universe of manga, and just like every kid, he got inspired with the work of the mangaka Osamu Tezuka, considered as the father of manga and modern Japanese animation. And with that inspiration, he started to draw and create his first mangas himself, and he loved it. He loved drawing planes and going to the movie theaters with his dad. And at the age of 17, he discovers something new. He discovers an entirely animated movie called The White Snake, and he completely fell in love with the animated movie. And from that, he knew exactly what he wanted to do with the rest of his life. He wanted to be an animator in one of the most prestigious studios out there. And soon after graduating in economy studies, I know it doesn't sound like what he wanted to do, but hey, he had to do it in the beginning, and then he can do whatever he wanted from there. But don't worry, he will get there eventually. Soon after that, he also gets a job at the biggest animation studio, the Toei, and starts at the very bottom of the company. And throughout time and many experiences, he becomes slowly but surely an excellent animator. And through that, he will get the opportunity to work on various projects such as Ken the Wolf Child. Miyazaki loved everything about this world of animation. He loved the people, he loved the work, and everything about it. And during the famous protests of the 60s for the protection of the workers, he meets his wife Akemi Ota, then friend and rival Takahato Isao, the one we were talking about in the beginning of the video. Isao is already a producer at the time, and he asks Miyazaki to become the chief animator, so meaning the one to have the final word on the project, on the artistic conception and the decoration of the next movie. And Miyazaki, guess what? Accepted right away. And it was a complete flop. The animation looked kind of rough on the edges, and it was not well received. But it's not the end of the world. Both Isao and Miyazaki went on for the next few years and moved on from it and made other projects and other stuff for the studios. And at the beginning of the 70s, they both quitted from the Toei and both go on to different small jobs here and there in different studios. Sometimes they work together in the same projects, and they both were very independent. Miyazaki publishes a manga using a fake name,
Yes, he loves to do that. Yes, he loves to post stuff and people not knowing that it's actually his work. So you never know. You might actually sometimes read something and it's actually from Miyazaki himself. Oh, and I forgot, he also calls his friend Isao with the nickname Paku Paku. And with that, he also worked Alibaba and the 40 Thieves. Then together, Miyazaki and Paku Paku worked on the same projects such as A Little Panda and Heidi, which was strongly inspired from the Alps. And after Haiti, there was an increase of anime and manga being made in the 70s, and each one of them had a complex, simplistic to look at, and super interesting to interact with. Isao leaves to make his own movies from now on, and Miyazaki is left by himself, and he doesn't know what to do, and he's always asking himself, should he actually start on producing movies by himself, actually? And that's when he actually started to produce his own movies. And he first started with a little TV series called Conan. There is some action, okay. It's interesting, it's dynamic, okay, but still not there yet. And during this time, Miyazaki and Paku Paku, of course with the rest of their teams, created a new technique called the layout technique. And this technique was about locking a key drawing that will serve as a reference to the whole production team. And it actually helps to keep an artistic perspective on the whole project throughout the whole project. And in general, it's actually a checkpoint and they have to get there every time. And this technique, Miyazaki will actually use it in almost all of his movies, and especially in the first one called The Castle of Cagliostro. The movie is great. We discover the elegance of Miyazaki and his sense as an artist, especially when it comes to realism of the movie. And sometimes people would say it was even a bit too much, like too much details, but it also gives him a certain charm because of the fluidity of the movie. The details, the European decor, the music, everything was working in a certain harmony, and people loved discovering this world, Miyazaki's world. And still it was not enough, but he didn't stop there. He went on and grabbed all of his work and went to a bunch of production studios, but not one kept his projects because they thought Miyazaki was already outdated. And that's when Miyazaki actually put his projects to the side to actually work on other projects for other people, until a journalist came and found him and he wanted to actually make an article about Miyazaki. And when Miyazaki knew that, he was delighted. So they started to make the article, and the journalist's name is Toshio Suzuki, and he works for a magazine that's specialized in manga. And from there, he publishes an article on Miyazaki, and they also created a professional relationship. And at that point, Miyazaki wants to make a new movie, and he tells that to Suzuki, and Suzuki totally approves of that, and he wants to help him actually. So Suzuki goes to his editor because yes, he's got a boss. So he goes to his editor and he asks him, oh, how about a new Miyazaki movie? It might be good. And he tells them about how it goes and how it is and how his movie is gonna be looking like. But all of that under the condition of Miyazaki creating a successful manga. And then guess what happened? He publishes Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind in the beginning of the 80s. And just like he predicted it, it was a huge success. And now the editor has to keep his promise and make the movie. So that's what they did. So from now they started to work on the movie of the Nausicaa manga that he just made, and with the help of one of his rivals called Isao Takata. He got in the project, and as soon as he got in the project, everything could run smoothly during the production of the movie. And at the age of 43 years old, Miyazaki releases the movie Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind.
All right, princess, ready to launch!
Tato, hold on!
All I do is worry when she's running around out there.
I'm Nausicaa. I'm from the Valley of the Wind.
Princess! Soon this place too will be consumed by the toxic jungle.
But I don't understand. Who could have polluted the entire Earth?
The anger of the Om reflects the anger of the Earth. The Earth knows it's wrong for us to survive.
You now live at the edge of the jungle.
The movie was a huge success. It tells the story of a princess of the valley going through many adventures in a post-apocalyptic world. Some of the themes in the movie are truly profound and meaningful, and he tackles real human problems and issues through the storyline, which gives a lot of realism to his animated movies. And Miyazaki is performing like a master his art and craft of the image. The images are just stunning, blushing, and beautiful. But even though it was a huge success in Japan, internationally, it was not a success at all. And why? Because of distribution, where a lot of shady stuff happened, a lot of cuts happened to the movies, and a lot of stuff got changed to the movies in other countries. So people didn't have that same connection to the movie that people did in Japan. Like in here, for example, in the US, it was called Warrior of the Wind. Everything back in Japan also was not good. The studio's Topcraft that actually helped make the movie went bankrupt because they had too many projects going on at the same time and too much money going on through all of that. So they actually went bankrupt at some point. But Miyazaki couldn't handle losing all of these good people. So what he did is that with the help of Isao Takata and Tokuma Shoten also joined, and together they created the Studio Ghibli. And all of the employees that were working for Topcraft, all of the animators and all of that were now working for the Studio Ghibli. And why Ghibli? Well, because it has a huge resemblance to the wind, and it's also the name of an Italian plane of the Second World War, the Caprione K3009 Ghibli. And after a few trials and fails, after a whole year, they finally made the castle in the sky. And guess what? It was a huge success. It's an adventure story with full of mysteries and richness, and it tells you the story of two kids going on an adventure to find the legendary flying castle while being pursued by pirates and governmental agents. Crazy, I know, right? But it works. It works. And it's actually great to watch. But now they still need to focus on how to make more movies just like that. So they went on to look for more money and more funds to make more movies. And at some point, Isao Takata goes to the Tokuma Shoten and a bunch of his investors and tells them about Ghibli's projects. He tells them that he would like the group to actually fund not one but two of the next Studio Ghibli's movies that they will release on the same day, of course. One talking about the historical war, and the second one is going to be more about fantasy. And in a way, people can watch one if they're interested in history and wars and all of that, and they can watch the fantasy one if they're not feeling the first one and they just want to dream a little bit. And if one flops, the other one will make it. And after hearing the proposition, everybody approved, but now the responsibility lies upon Studio Ghibli to actually make two movies to actually come out the same day, which is, oh boy, it's tough, huh? It's very tough. And April 16, 1988, Studio Ghibli releases Grave of the Fireflies and My Neighbor Totoro simultaneously.
The first one talks about two orphans during the Second World War and try the best they can to survive, and the emotions we get from that movie is thrilling. Watching some of the scenes of that movie, it makes you emotional. Then for the second movie, The Excellent Totoro, the story of two sisters that discover Totoro, a forest magical beast, and we see through all the movie the adventures they have, and let me tell you, almost all the shots are perfect in the movie, and up until today this movie is amazing. They will always sell a bunch of merch, especially Totoro plushies. They will make also Totoro their mascot. Followed by that, they make another animated movie called Kiki the Little Witch in 1989, and just like usually now, welcome to another world of the Studio Ghibli.
If things don't work out, you can always come home.
And come back a failure? Ooh. Wow. Look at this city. My name's Kiki, and I'm a witch.
This movie will allow them to actually hire more people and have a great workplace. And due to the success of Kiki, that movie confirmed the weight of the Studio Ghibli among all of the other big studio companies. And at the same time, Toshio Suzuki quits Tokuma Shoten, and he actually comes to Studio Ghibli to become the director of it and a producer at the same time. And followed by that, we have Porco Rosso, that started as being a movie exclusively for the Japan Airlines, but then got released to the public in all theaters in Japan and all over the globe, of course.
God was telling you it wasn't your time yet.
You think? Seems to me he was telling me I was a pig and maybe I deserved to be all alone.
You can't believe that. You're a good person.
No, the good guys were the ones who died. Or maybe I'm dead and life as a pig is the same thing as hell. Now go to sleep.
It's a movie about a pilot of the First World War that got transformed into a pig, and he fights pirates in the air over the Mediterranean Sea, and more precisely in Italy. That movie is a combination of romanticism, realism, and fantasy in a realistic world mixed with a bit of comedy. It's plainly just beautiful. Followed by that, we have Pompoko, and this one is about magical raccoons called Tanukis. The movie is set in a mid-serious, mid-comic vibe, and the raccoons can transform into human beings and they fight against the urbanization that's a threat to their habitat. This represents the expansion of Tokyo that destroys its nature in favor of humans. And guess what again? Huge success. Everybody loved the movie again. The movie will be at the Festival of Andy and will also win the prize of the best movie. And during those years, slowly but surely, the Studio Ghibli started to become the best animation studio in Japan, with a huge reputation that sometimes goes beyond the borders of Japan, all the way to France and all the way to the US. And it's actually considered by many to be the most powerful animation studios in the whole world at the same time. But Studio Ghibli has a huge problem, and the huge problem is distribution. When it came to their oldest movies, they always had some shady deals, kind of, where the movies always kind of got cutted or transformed or something. But then, with the help of one person called Steve Alpert, who was working for Disney in Japan, he was literally the guy that helped the Studio Ghibli to become more mainstream in a way, and that's how Disney actually started to distribute all of the Studio Ghibli movies from now on. And that's how the first one they started with is Princess Mononoke.
My prince, are you prepared to learn what fate the stones have foretold you?
Yes.
There is evil at work in the land to the west, Prince Ashitaka.
My name is Ashitaka. I've traveled far from lands to the east.
Go away.
I don't want to fight you. I'm a friend.
Princess Mononoke?
Princess of the spirits of ghouls, beasts, and ancient gods. The wolf stole her soul and now she lives to kill me.
The whole world was not ready for this one. Combination of nature, technology, realism, where no good guys, no bad guys exist.
Princess Mononoke is the most successful movie up to this point for the Studio Ghibli, and everybody fell in love with the way the studio makes movies. It's a giant success for Ghibli, and the world discovers Miyazaki's style of making animated movies. Quick little joke, when the movie first came to the US, it was actually in the hands of Harvey Weinstein. We all know that guy. And when he first saw the movie, he thought some of the scenes were a little bit violent, so he was thinking of switching some of the scenes, which he did, and he sent that to Miyazaki. But Miyazaki hated it. So what he decided to do was to actually send Suzuki over there to the US, and he sent him with a sword as a message. And as soon as he went to the US, he went to New York to one of Weinstein's conferences, and during one of those conferences, he got up, he got the sword, and he was like, "Momonoke! Hime no cut!" Damn, Totoro almost cut Weinstein, huh?
Yeah, boy.
Making Princess Momonoke was a big risk for the studio because they invested a lot in the international distribution, but everything paid off, and with the money they got from Princess Momonoke, they were able to create a museum of the Studio Ghibli, which is still loved until today. And also, they made plenty more of movies such as My Neighbor the Yamadas, and more, notably Spirited Away.
Chihiro, we're almost there.
What's this old building?
It looks like an entrance.
Wait for me!
You shouldn't be here. Get out of here now!
Mom! Dad!
It's a bathhouse for the spirits. It's where they come to replenish themselves. And this is certainly no place for humans.
This movie is magical, and it talks to any kind of person. You can be young and get the message. You can be super old and still get the message. Whoever you are, you will fall in love with this movie. And right after that, Miyazaki wanted to actually take his leave and leave it to one of his successors. But a tragedy happened, and something happened to his successor, and he actually died from something expected. Guess what? Miyazaki had to come back, and that's when he started to create more movies again, and he wanted to actually make a movie that his little daughters could actually watch, and he thought of Spirited Away. Spirited Away is the story of a mom, dad, and daughter that goes into another city to live there, and while moving to a new house, they got lost. The mom and dad go into a different city, and they start to eat, and they get transformed into pigs. And the story, gotcha. That's not the whole story though. It's actually a beautiful story of fantasy, realism, and food apparently. And as soon as it hit worldwide, it was greatly appreciated by everyone. Spirited Away becomes the most profitable Japanese movie of all times, and Miyazaki gets a bunch of prizes. One of them being an Oscar for Best Animated Movie. Followed by that, we have The Cat Returns and Howl's Moving Castle in 2004.
Where to? I'll be your escort this evening.
Now, Sophie, you need to be more careful. It's dangerous out there.
This heart belongs to me.
Are you a howl?
I'm going to help you break the spell that you're under.
You can't even break your own spell.
Strapping young men are so difficult to deal with.
And he did it again. I'm telling you, all of Miyazaki's movies become masterpieces. You can find magic, romance, darkness, courage, happiness, sadness, cuteness, almost all the emotions you can think of are represented in this movie. It's beautiful to even watch too, and a bunch of scenes were even made into memes that exist nowadays to express yourself in a certain way. The movie surpassed all of the expectations, but the problem is, what now? Well, Miyazaki went on to work on a project called Ponyo, and it took him almost 4 years, but at the end he came back with the movie in theaters in 2008, and as usual, huge success.
Come right back up, okay? Okay. A goldfish. Sosuke! Ponyo! Her name is Ponyo. She likes to eat him. She came to me. She might be magic. Ponyo? Ponyo!
I know you tried, but Ponyo is a fish. She wasn't meant to live in a bucket.
Ponyo? Ponyo, 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 fishy in the sea. I will be a human too.
Human?
Ham. I want ham. Ponyo magic set you free. Oh, pretty little girl, will you swim back to me? Ow!
Then the age of the ocean will begin again. An end to the era of those abominable humans.
Fish with faces who come out of the sea costs are not.
And from there, the Studio Ghibli went on to make many more successes. They did Arrietty in 2010, From Up on Poppy Hill in 2011, and in this one we had both Miyazakis working on the same project, The Father and the Son. With that, we got The Wind Rises and The Princess Kaguya in 2013.
She's such a beautiful little princess.
That kid's weird. She grows fast, like bamboo.
Have you gotten bigger again?
Yeah? You think so?
I have heard the rumors about her.
And when Marty was there in 2014, and then Miyazaki started to get older and older, and he couldn't handle the same pace he did back then. That's why the next movies of the Studio Ghibli took some time to come, but definitely did by 2016, The Red Turtle, and also his grand return and his final movie of Miyazaki, The Boy and the Heron. And I talked about this topic in my previous reaction video, so go watch it. All the details about the movie are there. But in general, it's a movie that represents his life as an animator at Ghibli, the different universes he created, and this movie is so powerful in emotions and full of connotations. Miyazaki today is 90 years old, but don't disrespect the old man. He's retired but still goes to watch what's happening on the sets. His legacy was passed on the next generation, and most of his friends started the Studio Ghibli with him are long gone already. The Studio Ghibli nowadays has 40 years of existence and is still making crazy good animation movies, competing with the best movies out there. Their style got world renowned for many topics such as strong feminism, leadership, and ecology, and Miyazaki with the Studio Ghibli brought masterpieces to the world. And he also won multiple prizes for his masterpieces. The Ghibli movie became a pillar of the animation world, and throughout experiencing the Ghibli movies myself personally, they make your mind invade. You travel, you go outside of your mind when you're actually watching one of those movies, and you actually go into a beautiful worlds that were created by Miyazaki's mind. And sometimes we would be talking about serious topics, and sometimes we would be laughing, and sometimes we would be just looking at something, and all of that with beautiful pictures in all of the movies. Studio Ghibli was a huge pillar in my own growth, and watching many of their movies throughout my growing up years, I will cherish those memories and those movies forever, and I will also pass them forever. This was the story of the Studio Ghibli. Did you ever get stuck somewhere, especially in a dream, where you don't know how you got there and you don't know how it's gonna end? Did you ever go through mental issues where you had trouble remembering things about your past and what's going on in your background and in the environment? Do you recognize anything around you, or are you totally in a new strange place that you don't recognize? Well, one day, you might find yourself in the borderland, a place where you are limited in a specific zone until you unlock all of the levels in a way to get to the next environments and the next levels in a way. Welcome into this crazy, unrealistic story, the story of Alice in Borderland.
今日も渋谷へと繰り出す。そんな3人が突然迷い込んだのは見慣れた渋谷でありながら誰一人として見当たらない謎の世界。戸惑う3人に突然ゲームの開始が告げられる。
なんだよこれ。
ゲーム。一度ボーダーラインを越えたらもう出られない。
And Borderland is situated in a state between life and death. It follows a very specific set of rules which are not clearly explained. And in that place, many individuals are regrouped in a specific place with an unspecific target that needs to be achieved. The story of Alice in Borderland is rich with mystery, suspense, fantasy, and action, and fully packed with amazing games that makes the audience think about the story based on the clues left by the characters and the environments. And from this point on, I need to let you know, I will be hugely spoiling the show Alice in Borderland from Netflix. So if you don't want to get spoiled, I would suggest you stop the video right now. So if you don't mind getting spoiled, or if you already watched the show, just keep on watching. But if you never watched the show and you don't want to get spoiled, it's on you. So I'll suggest you stop the video right now. Following the show, we can see that the Borderland is not an easy place to access. It is a place situated in between life and death, kind of like the limbo in other cultures, which represents a tunnel or a pathway in between life and death, where people either die and go to the other world or they go back to life. And to get in the Borderland specifically, the person has to be on the brink of death, on the last edge before truly passing away. And the other is that the person has to be unsatisfied with their life, maybe even in the slightest way, and the slightest little remorse. And following the show on Netflix, which I totally advise you to go watch yourself as well, it was amazing to watch that story in a show. Nothing but respect for that show. So following the show, it starts, a meteor strikes the place where the main actors are, and that's how they got into the Borderland in the matter of a few seconds. So literally they got transported there after the meteor strike. Of course, other people were in the Borderland already, but we'll be talking about that later in the video. And with that in mind, welcome to the Borderland. Borderland works in mysterious ways. Some people experience a near-death experience due to a meteor strike, and others had near-death experiences such as a traffic accident, a shooting, and due to the amount of people in the same area experiencing that near-death experience, their consciousness got teleported into the Borderland. You have to understand that the show is based upon a specific principle, which is that the body and the soul are two separate things. And following the show, you can pretty much see that the body stays in the real world and the soul is the one who goes to the Borderland in a way. And in there, time goes differently, just like the room of time in Dragon Ball. Hope you got the reference. Hope you got it.
Oh, I just found a place where we can do a whole year's worth of training in a day.
I'm listening.
It's up on Kami's Lookout. Although now I guess it's just the Lookout. Either way, they call it the
Hyperbolic Time Chamber.
What the f is that?
I thought it was called the Room of Spirit and Time.
I said that because you kept mispronouncing it.
I can do it.
In the show, we can see that all of the amount of time that was spent in the Borderland, which was around 2 weeks, is equivalent to around 30 seconds in real life. So for the entire 2 weeks in Borderland, they actually just passed out for 30 seconds in the real life. It's crazy.
Yeah, boy.
So basically to get there, you need a whole bunch of people in a specific area, and they all need to go through a near-death experience at the same time. Pretty basic. After getting in the Borderland, you discover that not everybody makes it at the same time, and not everybody is in the same building. For example, people will literally get transported into this other world in exactly the same environment where they were, and with exactly the same people that were around them at the time that they had the same experience. So following the main story, we can see that some people were already in the Borderland before the story of the main characters starts. And that's because in real life they had their near-death experience a couple seconds before the others. So if you die right now versus in 10 seconds or 20 seconds, that matters in the Borderland, depending on the number of days you'll be staying until the end of it. Some people get assigned a face card upon arrival, while all the other players with the main characters got assigned player cards to play the game. And then a game is installed between the players to figure out the purpose of this whole game. And while playing the first game, everybody starts to understand that the more you play and the more cards you get, the more chances you might have to actually get back to the real world. So by actually collecting all of the deck, all of the set of 40 cards, you might have a chance. And throughout the games in the story, the main character starts to understand that the main goal of the game, being childish games, but played with real people and real consequences, which is death. Hey, just wanted to let you know, welcome to the Guccino's Bazaar. Thank you for watching this video. Hope you like it, subscribe, and comment down below. I want your greatest comment down below, and hopefully you go watch all of my other videos. That will distract you for a bit. And after a few games, the main character, Arisu, loses all of his best friends that he actually came with to the borderland.
Always laughing like idiots. Drinking the night away. When I'm with you guys, I forget about all my problems.
Hey, do you guys remember that freaking hot day when we made noodles with shaved ice?
Carabay, where are ya? Carabay!
And he still has to deal with everything going on while finding out the true purpose of the game, which is to find a way out into their universe. And to do that, he allies himself to other players to actually have a chance to fight back. One particular element you have to remember is the Joker. He determines which version of the borderland will be played by the group of people, and upon arrival, they get assigned a role, either a player or a dealer, and both parties are allowed to stay in the borderland until their visas run out. That's something they have on their arm. So if you overextend your stay in the borderland and you overstay your visa, you die immediately in the borderland and in real life as well. But if you want to extend your visa, you will have to start playing one of the death games and win, hopefully. And that's how you get like 3 more days. The games are played in stages. The first stage is about competing against the dealers and winning some cards to have all of the deck. And the players believe that by having all 40, they can actually go back to their real world. And if the players clear all of the games, the dealers will die immediately. And in reverse, if the dealers win, all of the players will die and the dealers will go back to life. Kind of controversial. Either way, after that first stage, completely horrifying, the second stage where the dealers and players confront the citizens in a series of serious games, the citizens are not just watching from the shadows. They are participating in the games they created so that they can win and stay in the borderland forever. The people entering the borderland enter with items with them, and those items are actually super familiar to them, and that actually helps the story to make them merge more into that world and make them believe that they're actually in the real world while they are in the borderland actually. So the more immersed they are, the better it is for the story actually. So the more they associate those familiar items that they have with that world, the more they will associate that world to actually the real world. But the main character Arisu, from the first shots, already starts to remember things from the past and have flashbacks after he got into the borderland, because he got an amazing ability to actually remember things from the past. So due to specific shocks and pointers, players can start to actually remember things from their past in their memories, and they can start to make one-on-one so that they can figure out where the hell they are.
君に死んでほしくない。アリスはウサギと共にゲームをクリアしていく。ビーチのリーダーボーシア、彼はこう語る。すべてのトランプを集めれば元の世界へ戻れる。
存分にビーチを楽しみたまえ。
彼らはボーシアを中心にアグニア、チシアなど複数の幹部たちで構成されている。彼らはハートの銃を除く絵札以外すべてのゲームをクリア。
A little FYI, from the beginning, there was also a little rumor going on around the dealers saying that if they can kill around 100 players, they will be able to go back to the real world themselves too, which is practically similar to the rumor that the players among them have. And Mimosa, you can see her right here, decided to volunteer to die in a game to let a chance to either the players to make it out with a new victory and not kill each other, or either the dealers will have more than 100 deaths so that they can go back into their real world. So in total, the first stage regrouped many games that killed many players. So many, just like in the Squid Game.
ダイヤです。ダイヤです。ダイヤ。お願いします。あなたのマークはスペードよ。うん。スペード。スペードです。スペードです。スペードです。スペードです。ありがとうございます。あなたのマークはクラブよ。クラブ。クラブ。クラブです。あなたのマークはハートよ。あなたはスペード。スペードです。スペード。ありがとう。
Then in the second stage of the Borderland trials, cool name, right? The second stage is a face-off between the players and the citizens of Borderland, and those citizens are previous winners of the games that decided to stay forever into Borderland, or until they are defeated, because their role is to hold as much games the Joker sends them until they lose. And if the players defeat all of the citizens, at that point they are given the choice to become either a citizen of the Borderland as well or leave. If the players that win decides to stay, they will become the next citizen and they will hold the next games in the next Borderland versions. In the other case, if they decide to leave and go back to the real world, their memories gets wiped and no one remembers the Borderland after they left. But sometimes through some indicators and specific details, they can have certain flashbacks in their mind of a picture, a scene, a word, and in specific, the Borderland.
1000年先までの未来の話をしてるのよ。アバターや仮想現実が仕事や娯楽などの生活を占めるようになった。50年後、がんや認知症、あらゆる万病の治療も遺伝子工学によって可能になった。その先の500年間、脳の快楽物質を摂取さえしていれば生きていける。これが1000年後の未来の世界。
So after going back to the real world at the end, we get some nice shots with Arisu and his friends after they survived the meteor strike and the Borderland. But no one remembers clearly what happened, but maybe throughout time they will get their memories back slowly but surely throughout many pointers and shocks. And right here, we also get a shot of the Joker at the very end. Scrolling through Facebook and I found out a new season of the show is coming out on Netflix with Alice in Borderland Season 3 and hopefully it will be good. A new game with new challenges, more characters, the mystery is on point and the suspense is real.
You want that? You want us to fall into despair? You want us to...
Where are we gonna start the story with? This woman is crazy and does not deserve to be a parent. And just to let you know what I'm talking about, look at this clip right here.
A text message from Eve's teacher, and she said that Eve did not pack a lunch today, and can I bring a lunch over to the school? This happens quite often when you're raising children, because I know that her teacher is uncomfortable with her being hungry and not having a lunch. But I responded and just said, Eve is responsible for making her lunches in the morning, and she actually told me she did pack a lunch. So the natural outcome is she's just going to need to be hungry. And hopefully nobody gives her food and nobody steps in and gives her. And my kids are literally starving. I hesitate to say this because it's going to sound like I'm like a mean barbarian. Using sex, I've manipulated using external rewards. I have wanted something and I'm going to get it no matter
How many YouTubers on the platform do you know that are into family YouTube channels? Well, a lot of them exist on the platform, and I can cite, for example, the Ace family and previously Daddy 05, and we all remember what Daddy 05 was about. Bunch of craziness. I mean, there are so many family channels on the platform, it's crazy. And I've always thought that it's not a great idea to have them. And why? Because I believe the children don't even give their consent for these videos, and it feels like in all of this the kids become the product of those videos, which I don't know about you, but it's completely wrong. Then the kids 20 years later will probably hate their parents for ever exposing them. And today we're gonna be talking about a big piece in the YouTube game, and I'm talking about Ruby Frankie and her family. We're gonna be looking at her rise to success and her fall into jail. Ruby Frankie, you look at her, good looking woman, good videos, great family. You will never probably guess what's actually behind the curtains. And behind those curtains, you discover something you wish you would never have discovered. You discover that she's actually imprisoning her kids for no reason sometimes even. She starves them and then abuses them. And the harsh way, I'm saying.
A Utah mom influencer arrested, facing 6 felony counts of aggravated child abuse. For the first time, we're hearing emergency responders as they see one of Ruby Frankie's children after he allegedly escaped through a window.
The female does have duct tape around each ankle. He's not telling ERP why, and said that there's sores around his wrists and ankles. He's becoming, or correction, the ERP is becoming emotional regarding the child's health.
And all of that so she can keep control on her kids so that they behave in exactly the same manner that she wants them to, which is nonsense. And in the case of disrespect, oh boy, you've woken up the beast now. Now, at the very beginning of this story, we are going to start in the beautiful state of Utah, the land of the Mormons. Yeah. And Ruby Frankie here lives happily with her husband Kevin and 6 children. Good lord, and good luck to the people who like that kind of lifestyle, but personally I don't think I can do it. And Ruby Frankie here owns, or should I say owned, a YouTube channel called 8 Passengers. Throughout the years she has been producing different types of content throughout all of her social platforms, and she was mostly known on YouTube, where throughout the years gained more and more notoriety, a bigger audience and more subscribers. And at the end, she has been arrested for assault towards her children with multiple physical injuries on the kids.
Received a report of an emaciated juvenile that had duct tape around his extremities, that was asking for food and water.
He was treated by paramedics at the scene.
Look to your left.
As handcuffs closed over Ruby Frankie's wrist.
Lord, hopefully this video passes on YouTube. Damn, I mean, you can't do worse than this. And before we really get into it, guys, I wanted to tell you about the sponsor of the video. Me, myself, and I. Welcome to the Good Cheetos Bazaar, guys, and I am your host, the Good Chino, back with a new video. If you've never watched my videos before, I'm happy to invite you to like and subscribe and comment down below once you're done watching the video. Appreciate it. Now let's go back to the show. Ruby Frankie is a social personality based on YouTube. She makes family vlogging content, and oh boy, let me tell you, just by watching it, it makes you cringe bad. Like, who seriously was watching these videos? And in general, the family vlogging videos are all kinds of cringe, and some of them are even dangerous, like Daddy 05 or even the Ace family. God, I hate that family.
Family! Welcome back to our channel, guys.
What's going on, everybody? Ooh, look at my hair.
No.
Good thing I don't have to. No, I'm gonna say it. Good thing I have to be on camera today.
Okay.
God.
Okay.
My hair looks fucked up. I would not film like this. So just go.
Okay.
You are literally a kid with no consent in front of your parents with a camera, filming your every move inch by inch and your every reaction. And then they post that footage so that millions and millions of people watch it without even you knowing what's even going on. And sometimes not good people watch that stuff too, and that's not good. I don't know why these people want to make their kids into those people that you see in the reality TV shows, where you always ask yourself, what happened to those kids? What happened to them? And how did they become the adults that they are today? Well, that's the start of that. I mean, goodness gracious, it's craziness. But never mind that. Ruby Frankie kept on posting more and more content about her family. She kept on posting the good, the bad, the worst, and the even worse than worst. But all of that made her channel even stronger, with a stronger community, because people loved to tune in for more craziness about that whole family. And they were following it like it was kind of like a reality TV show in a way.
Eve, she was 6 years old at the time. And she was saying her prayers, and she said the cutest thing. I thought it was so cute. And I started laughing. She said, "Dear Heavenly Father, please help me to survive." And I thought it was so cute, and it just took me off guard, and I kind of giggled a little.
Ruby would take every little family worthy moment and actually expose it to the whole internet and make money out of it in the back. And she was generating so much money through her YouTube channel that she didn't even care about all the repercussions that she was actually doing to her kids for their future in a way. And in a way, it feels like the kids were suffering a lot throughout the videos and throughout the making of the videos. Why? Because again, it feels like the kids are the products of the videos, making them move around like puppets to make whatever content Ruby wanted to make. And all of that made the success of the channel with millions of subscribers. And if you're asking about the dad, Kevin, I mean, he didn't do nothing, but that's exactly the problem too. We'll talk about him later throughout the video. So after years of success, in 2021, Ruby Frankie and her channel, poof, disappears from the platform of YouTube. And people were like, what the hell happened? And oh boy, they found out. People started to actually piece together multiple videos, and then they found out. They found out that Ruby was extremely handsy with her kids and extremely harsh as well. Look at the clips.
My bedroom was taken away for 7 months, and then you give it back like a couple weeks ago.
I don't think our viewers know that.
You've been sleeping on a beanbag.
I've been sleeping on a beanbag since October, and they gave my room back like 2 weeks ago. Oh, I'll give you the reason why I lost my bedroom. I think so. I think this is the reason. At least this is the reason that's been in my head. It's pretty funny, but now that I look back, I mean, it's pretty depressing.
No, we never told our viewers.
That I woke Russell up at 2 in the morning and told him that we're going to Disneyland and he has to pack. And he got up and made his bed all neatly and then packed all his clothes in a suitcase. And then he walked out the door and I'm like, Russell, he was like, what? And he's all happy. Has his sunglasses on.
Do you think it's funny? Because
and then I walk out.
If you think it's funny, then that was 7 months ago. Maybe you need longer without a bedroom.
Damn, that is harsh for a kid. Yes, you can clearly see her son saying that he did not have access to his own bed. You can clearly see her manipulation tactics trying to control her kids. But ding dong, that is not the way, young Padawan. But maybe I'm wrong. So let's look at the next clip and maybe we'll try and get some more sense of this.
Abby, we took the phone away from Abby in November. And you may never get the phone back.
Probably not.
No, I have no friends.
You can play with friends.
No, like I don't have friends.
I don't have friends either.
I literally like told my friends I'm not hanging out with them anymore because they say some pretty messed up stuff.
Scaring people and shit. Ruby is so weird, I swear to God. I mean, how did she even come up to the conclusion that this idea is actually a good idea? It truly looks like she actually loves getting into fights with her kids. Or maybe she gets turned on from them or something. Having that kind of controlling aura and the leader pack sarcasm. I hate that shit. You could ask yourself, where was the dad? Where is Kevin? Well, Kevin apparently didn't know nothing about all of this. And since he was not very involved in the videos, he claims that he did not know nothing. And the kids never told him anything. Kind of suspicious, don't you think? But anyhow, throughout the years, many controversies were still going on here left and right, but nothing could stop her. And after the 8-passenger channel popped out of YouTube, guess what happened? She creates a new YouTube channel with somebody called Jody. And oh boy, you better not piss Jody off. I'm telling you, right after that, guess what again? Ruby started to brand herself to a new name with her friend Jody. And in this new channel or podcast or whatever it was called, she was mainly talking in her podcast about family and about how to protect her family and how to serve your family and how to not do this and not do that and how to love them and how to keep your marriage safe and whatever. Basically a whole bunch of Mormon bullshit, which seriously is just a bunch of crap served on a dish with a side of crap as well. Basically it sounds like the devil himself trying to sound like a good person in a way, putting up posts on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, X, literally.
Your children had no feeling for anything that was going on. They were only focused on self. And this is where distortion comes in. Distortion, the characteristic of distortion is selfishness.
Yeah, that's right.
So every second of every day is an opportunity, if you're parenting or grandparenting, to teach your children and your grandchildren about principles.
Absolutely.
She was really trying to make that bag again from all of the social platforms she can. And all of this time, her friend Jody knew everything about her and knew everything about what was going on with the kids. And guess what she did? She even pushed her even more. We jump until August 2023. Ruby Frankie gets arrested along with Jody. Ruby gets arrested for aggravated child abuse and their joint channel pops out of the radar. Nowhere to be found anymore.
She was the popular momfluencer who dished out advice to millions on YouTube. Then Ruby Frankie was found guilty of child abuse. Now for the first time we are seeing the moment she was put in cuffs. Les Trent has details.
Police officers, open up! It's just released body cam video of armed cops raiding the home of former mom influencer Ruby Frankie and her co-host to uncover horrific child abuse.
Step out of the house. Step out of the house. Whoa, 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 whoa! We're just gonna see.
And let the good Chino tell you what happened. At the end of the month of August, one of the kids actually escaped the house with duct tape all over him, and he was actually running in the neighborhood to the closest house he could find with the closest neighbors he could find.
Yes. Hi, I was just wondering if you could do 2 favors. Well, what are they? Taking me to the nearest police station. Well, actually, just one's fine. What's going on, son? Have a seat there. It's personal business. Have a seat. What's your name? I just had a 12-year-old boy show up here at my front door asking for help. And he's said he just came from a neighbor's house. He's emaciated. He's got tape around his legs. He's hungry and he's thirsty.
Need someone immediately.
But he has duct tape around
Big
each ankle.
injuries. There's sores around them.
Yeah, there's sores around him. I think there's a good chance he's been.
He also has.
Oh, and he has it around his
wrist
ankle.
as well.
I mean his wrist as well. Okay, this boy has been.
Needs immediate attention. Oh, he was such a good kid.
This kid is obviously been.
And after seeing the neighbors saw that he had duct tape all over his body, so they started questioning it and they called the cops. Because at the same time, they saw that he was kind of malnourished and lacking food. And then the neighbors called the police, and that's when the story completely unfolds. We discovered that all her kids were not eating properly and were starving actually. The children were often beat, and she would try to control their every move and every choice in life even.
You don't want to talk? Okay. There's nothing at all you want to talk about at all? It's okay to talk to me.
And with Ruby's family, her sister Sherry comes out and says, and I quote, that it has been a big day. Me and the family are so glad justice is being served. We've been trying to tell the police and CPS for years about this. And so glad they finally decide to step up. The kids are safe, but there is a long road ahead. And with this situation unfolding, other family members, the oldest kids of Ruby, they also came out and said that they also tried to tell CPS what was going on, but Ruby would always be there to pretend everything is fine and that the kids are behaving bad, really bad. Also, it was reported that more than 20,000 people signed a petition to get the CPS involved. I mean, finally, right? I mean, for a mother to behave like that, that is craziness. To try to manipulate and control and take decisions and punish them for bullshit reasons sometimes, that's not how a mother should behave. And the dad, not even paying attention to what was going on around him, he is to blame in this too. But looks like justice ain't gonna do shit about it. And we don't even know how much trauma those kids are gonna be having in the future. Because don't forget, the victims in all of this are the kids, and there's 6 of them. And now, as far as we know, she is in jail and she will stay there for at least 30 years along with Jody. And I'm glad justice has been served in her case.
A social media influencer who preached tough love parenting with harsh punishment was handed some harsh punishment of her own today. Former momfluencer Ruby Franke was sentenced to 4 to 60 years in a Utah prison. Her business partner, Jody Hildebrand, will serve the same sentence.
She committed horrible acts of child abuse. Ms. Franke held her children, ages 9 and 11, in a concentration camp-like setting. The children were regularly denied food, water, beds to sleep in, and virtually all forms of entertainment.
Karma is always around the corner. And from the perspective of it, Kevin never got held of anything, except now he gets full custody of the kids. What a shock though. I mean, apparently in the eyes of the law, he didn't see anything, he didn't hear anything, and he didn't do anything to the kids. And as I said, in the eyes of the law, he's a free man, and that's why he now got full custody of all of the kids. Not all of the kids are actually living with him because some of them are 18 and plus, so they are living by themselves. But the rest, I think that they are living with him by now. But all I gotta say is that that's kind of suspicious that he's never seen anything and nothing was reported to the dad for years upon years. Suspicious, that's all I gotta say.
That's suspicious.
But hope those kids are gonna be alright, man. I hope they're gonna get back on their feet soon as possible. And hopefully they will be able to live a normal life from here on out. Kids deserve that at least. Also, I hope Ruby will rot in jail.
Steve-O is one of the craziest human beings on the planet. He can do crazy stunts that no one else can perform. He is never scared to go beyond his limits to test himself and make fear his daily best friend. He also used to say that making people happy is one of his goals, and I think he did it. Steve-O is a true artist in his craft. He is an American entertainer, actor, stunt performer, podcaster, and even more that I can describe in a few words. Oh, and he also broke every bone in his body, and he tried every substance known to human beings. This is the story of Steve-O, and his story is full of ups and downs. And in this video, we will see the legend that brought Steve-O to be alive and how it's actually a miracle that he's still alive. Steve-O, from his real name, Stephen Gilchrist Glover, grew up like every boy in this country but with a slight traveling addiction. Steve-O's dad was the president of PepsiCo in the South American division in charge of all operations in Brazil. And due to his father's job, young Steve-O had to follow his parents all over the world. Steve-O could never find real footing in any country he was going to, a place where he can truly grow up in and say that it's his home. And on top of that, his mother was an alcoholic, and Steve-O had to deal with his mother's illness for years while his dad was away making money for everybody. And due to his mother's illness, Steve-O started to drink at a very young age too. With bottles of liquor literally everywhere in the house, it was literally easy for him to start drinking at a very young age. And with his mother in this condition, and his dad being a total absentee and an over-the-top authoritarian when he actually shows up, it's safe to say that when growing up, Steve-O didn't actually learn nothing from his parents. And in a way, something weird started forming in Steve-O's brain where he started actually doing weird stuff just to kind of try and get the attention of his parents. For example, his dad. And he was truly looking for the attention of his dad that he never got. And instead, he directed his whole attention into his peers and classmates, where he was grabbing their attention, yes, but not their approval. And it didn't end there. Oh boy, it didn't. In 1987, Steve-O is 13 years old, and his favorite band was the Motley Crue. His favorite band was performing in his city, and he wanted to meet them at all costs. So he gets to the Yellow Pages, searches for the manager's name, contacts him, and he figured in which room they were actually staying. And as soon as Steve-O found out the information, he was gone. He was gone to meet his favorite performers, and one of them is Tommy Lee. And from that single encounter with his favorite band, he came back a changed man, and he decided right there and then that that lifestyle is what he truly wanted. And he actually started to act out a little bit. He would start to actually get in trouble a lot, start to miss school, and stay outside all the time.
I remember meeting him for sure.
Really?
Oh, for
really?
sure, yeah. Because it was just like,
oh, cool.
No, because our tour manager, well, not our tour manager, our manager's brother, he hit us up beforehand. He's like, hey man, this fucking crazy kid called me in my room and told me that he's fucking literally called every single hotel in Toronto looking for us, and he's a massive fan, and so I told him I'd bring him back to say hey to you guys. So I knew about it.
That's great.
But then when we met, I remember meeting him because he was like he is now. See, and nothing's changed.
Hey, dude.
Fuck, dude. Fuck yeah.
He discovers his love for skateboarding, and as soon as he found his dad's new camera, Steve-O started to document his adventures in skating, which totally served as a way to calm Steve-O down a little bit and get him out of trouble. But not for long, because at the same time he started hanging out with the stoners of his school, smoking and drinking heavily, which led to an addiction by the time he was graduating high school. After high school, Steve-O is looking to join a university to kind of do like everybody, and he decides to put all of his efforts on the University of Miami in Florida. He looks at college as an opportunity for redemption, but instead, Steve-O goes rogue and discovers the true meaning of partying. Little did he know, he got kicked out from the university after only 1 year for destroying property, partying too much, and disorderly misconduct. That led him to a new lifestyle, and that lifestyle is jumping from couch to couch, from friends to friends, and sometimes even living in the streets, and all of that while pursuing his passion for skateboarding. And while all of that was going on, he was also getting super drunk literally every night to forget about all of his problems. He continued living that lifestyle until 1993. Steve-O decided to get actually serious about his stunts, and he decided to go to Albuquerque and apply to the Clown College. And this one is actually free if you are one of the 50 first students to apply that year. Hope you got that joke. And that decision was life-changing for Steve-O, and he didn't know himself how much that talent will take him in his life. The clown school taught him multiple stunts, multiple ways to be funny and provoke laughter in his audience. And you're gonna ask me, well, Uncle Guccino, how are you supposed to graduate from the clown school? Well, I'll let you know. You just gotta make your audience laugh. Like what would make me laugh if you click on that like button and subscribe for future videos. Thank you. And don't forget to comment down below. Finally graduated in 1997, he finally earned the famous name Steve-O. He decided right then and there to mix two of his biggest assets, clowning and skateboarding, and he wanted to make his mark his way. And how? Well, by being a clown while doing some skateboarding. Duh. He saw his opportunity in the Big Brother magazine, and by doing crazy stunts, he might get featured in their magazine. Now, I will let you guess what the trick was. He burned half of his face off, and it worked. Shockingly. He gets directly in contact with Jeff Tremaine for a feature, and that's when they started working together with Jeff Tremaine, Spike Jonze, and Mr. Johnny Knoxville. Go watch my video on the story of Johnny Knoxville. I made it a few weeks ago. Go watch it. Even though it was a challenge to work with Steve-O because of his constant attention-seeking persona, but overall, Steve-O was a great person to have around because he will do whatever it takes for him to make it. So they started making all kinds of crazy videos combining skateboarding and stunts, to the point where people started to tune in just to watch stunts. And up until 2000, this group of people aired their first episode of Jackass the series to MTV, which was not an instant hit in the beginning, but their audience absolutely loved the show. And for Steve-O, all that counted was his father's approval. His mother gets sick with a bad aneurysm and gets permanently hospitalized at the same time. And Steve-O at the same time met with his dad, and his dad let him know that he was truly proud of the dedication that his son has for his craft. And even though they didn't have the greatest of relationship, they still had that moment, and it was super important to Steve-O. So emotional. As Jackass aired for a total of 3 seasons, with each episode being crazier and crazier, the only problem is that the crew was not getting paid enough. For example, Steve-O was getting paid from $200 to $500 per stunt, which is not even enough to cover the medical expenses. Damn, that's harsh. The ripoff doesn't end there though. Steve-O and his friend Wee Man used to go on tours around the country to do live performances. And after doing multiple shows, selling merchandise and making new videos, Steve-O would still make enough money. You would think that he got rich from all those stunts, but he didn't make more than $3,000 for the tour. The tour was approximately generating between $20,000 to $100,000 every night, but none of that money went to Steve-O. And to cope with the physical pain from all of these shows, and then the mental pain from not being able to pay all of your bills, Steve-O would drown himself in drugs and alcohol to forget about his problems. And after all of these experiences comes Jackass the movie. And that movie officially laid Steve-O as cool, on top of getting a lot of fame from it too. And after accomplishing such a big goal, the most normal feeling is to share this success with your people. And for Steve-O, he actually wanted to share the news with his mom, but at the same time, his mom just died. His mother couldn't see how far he gotten in life and how much her encouragements led him through life too. In November 2003, Donna Glover passes away due to her illness. R.I.P. Donna. Luckily, Steve-O didn't take it as hard because he was in a very safe place, in a good place in his mind too. And even with the terrible news that he just got, he at the same time landed a new deal for a new TV show called Wild Boys with Chris Pointis. They basically traveled around the world learning about different people, different cultures, food, and environment. And personally, that is the best spin-off to Jackass 2 because it regroups the same crazy attitude we get from the Jackass movie. All of that leads to 2005, the year that started Steve-O's darkest and hardest times for him, where he used to take a lot of ketamine, a lot of cocaine, Xanax, and a lot more drugs that I may or may not even know about. And from 2005 to 2007, he did so much drugs that at the same time, the more he did, the more videos he would make and the more money he would make at the same time. So it was a vicious circle, and everybody saw that he was tripping balls 24/7.
We thought it'd be fun if you had a few drinks and then came out here and did a stunt. But I would love that. All right, we're going to do that. We're going to reel it in just a little bit. Going to get our focus. We're going to get our focus now. Gonna focus on a couple questions, take a few phone calls, then you do the stunt.
If I did not love Adam Carolla, then I would not love my business being here.
Right, all right.
And little FYI, don't do drug, kids, because you're gonna end up in that same state of Steve-O in between 2005 and 2007, and you don't want to be like that. That show did him dirty. They expressly tried to get him wasted right before he got on the air because they know that they will get more views if Steve-O goes crazy during the show, which is not cool. I mean, for Steve-O, it didn't matter. He was getting paid to getting drunk and trashing people and doing crazy stuff. He couldn't be happier. He couldn't care less. And that's exactly the point why. No one cared. No one. And why? Because people could take advantage of him very easily, even in that clip that you just saw. In a matter that sometimes you may know and that you may not even know. To Steve-O, what mattered the most is to get the most attention he could from everybody around him. Going back to that same example that he had with his father growing up. And as long as he was making his family proud, Steve-O could care less about the rest. And as long as his dad was proud of him, he was successful. And then he was okay. He sensed a lot of trauma. Steve-O was literally knee deep down the rabbit hole, drugged out of his mind for almost 2 years until he got that final push. And this one came from his closest friends from Jackass. Johnny Knoxville and a bunch of people from the Jackass crew came together and literally forced Steve-O to go to rehab. And let me be clear, they didn't come to ask him. It was not a choice. It was either he was going with them or they were gonna beat him up to go with them later. That shows you at the same time how messed up the situation was, but at least it showed that his friends cared enough for him that they had to force him into rehab, because it was either this choice or the other choice would have been death.
Well, right, it was entirely organized by Knoxville. He showed up with, I believe, 7 extra people. And it was not the type of intervention where they ask you if you're willing to accept help. They showed up to simply inform me that I was going to get help. And, by enacting California's 5150 law, they were able to commit me to a psychiatric ward involuntarily. And they were willing to beat me up, overpower me, and force me there. But I've never been a fighter, so they were able to just get me in the car.
And after a lot of hard work and abstinence, on March 2008, Steve-O lives his first day totally sober. He started reading a lot of books on alcoholism, and slowly but surely, with his body getting rid of all of the toxins, his consciousness started realizing all the embarrassment and all of the horrible things he had done under the influence, and it was not pretty. He saw all the harm he had done, all the troubles he made for people, and at the same time he got hit with remorse and shame at the same time. Could you imagine working as hard as he did? Because literally coming back from that deep hole of alcoholism is not easy. And then just to find out that you actually did a lot of crazy, stupid, and humiliating stuff when you were actually under the influence. Lord, you gotta have superpowers to be able to still continue to live on. And Steve-O got on the path of redemption, and from there, he's just living. Today, Steve-O is still sober and has been sober since that rehab incident. The biggest challenge about getting sober is staying sober and moving on with a clean and healthy life. Steve-O still has a ton of people loving him, and thanks to his audience, he was able to get back on his feet and create more crazy things while being sober. Today, he's got a podcast where he goes and interviews a bunch of interesting and cool people while talking about their crazy experiences. And throughout the show, everyone can see that Steve-O is funny and even funnier than he was while being under the influence. He also adopted a dog called Wendy in Peru, and he became an animal rights activist and an active protester. He loves to test himself to prove that he can do all of the crazy stunts while being sober, to prove he can do it all in any mental state. And he's also released 2 comedy specials, and it looks like Steve-O's got a career in the comedy stand-up world as well, where he tells the audience his craziest and funniest stories. And on top of it all, he got himself a wife just as crazy as he is, and we hope that they have a great life together. With all of this good shit, we can only hope that Steve-O will stay sober the rest of his life.
I always wanted to be a Hollywood stuntman.
Oh, and that was you?
Yeah,
With
that
the
was
walk
me.
off?
That was me with the
With
walk
the-
off.
Thanks, Bruce. I'm back here right now backstage. I'll be interviewing the fighters as they come out of the octagon. The dumb shit that I've done or the bad mistakes that I've made, they've taught me. You know, you learn. Like, that's why failure is so important. Try to find a thing that you really enjoy. Try to find a thing that you're passionate about.
Like an activity.
Yes. For me, early on, it was drawing. It was illustrations. It was comic books. I wanted to be a comic book illustrator.
Yeah, boy.
I have always asked myself, how did the Joe Rogan become the Joe Rogan? How much do you think the Joe Rogan gains per year just in ad revenue sponsorship? And I'll let you know that whatever number you come up with is not going to be enough. So how much do you think? 50,000, 200,000, million, $2 million? Wrong. I'll let you know. It's more like 30 to 50 million a year just in ad revenue sponsorship. And I guess that many of you also heard his exclusive deal with Spotify that went for $200 million, right? You heard that. So how did Joe Rogan become the Joe Rogan? How is that a normal guy working different construction jobs becomes the most powerful interviewer of all time? And his influence is so big that he gets more than 1 billion downloads per year. And with more experience throughout the years, his skills got sharper and sharper to the point where he truly became the king of podcasts. He is at the same time a podcaster, a mediator, a fighter, a commentator for the UFC, and mostly a comedian. This is the story of the Joe Rogan and Joe Rogan Experience. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Guccino's Bazaar, and I am your host, the Guccino. Don't forget to comment on the video, like, subscribe, the usual. Do it! Boston in the early 80s, the name Joe Rogan is unknown. Joe Rogan is a kid of 16 years old, and his stepfather was an architect who provided Joe with some construction work. However, after some time, Joe figured that he didn't like the work as much, and that a normal job is not for him, and he had no clue of what to do next. He started martial arts like karate and wrestling since the age of 14 years old, and all of that because of a school fight where he lost, and at the end the other dude did not actually hit him. He stopped himself, and as soon as he started training, he always thought of martial arts as a plan B in the back of his mind. Then at the age of 19 years old, and after a lot of training, Joe Rogan enters the US Championship Taekwondo tournament, and where he won. Then following that, he becomes Massachusetts full contact champion for 4 consecutive years and a taekwondo instructor as well. But at that point in time, he wasn't sure that that's what he wants to do. And after some classes of kickboxing and boxing, he stopped very quickly and abruptly because he was afraid of getting a permanent head injury. So still not knowing what to do, he started comedy. And at the age of 21 years old, he started to pursue a stand-up comedy career with several appearances in many comedy theaters. Joey stated that he and his martial art buddies would go to several tournaments and he would be always the guy who would make the jokes and the stupidest things just to kind of get a laugh out of everybody. And those guys he did martial art with actually pushed him towards making a whole career out of that comedy style that he's got. So in 1988, Joe Rogan made his debut and performed his first comedy set at an open club in Boston.
What's up? How we doing? You having fun? Having a rough week, man. I've been hearing the M word too much from my girlfriend, you know what I'm talking about? She brings up marriage a little bit too much, and it's, I can't even hear that word. I hear the word marriage, my brain just shuts off. It's like, marriage, click! Every word after marriage is... I don't think so.
So in 1988, Joe Rogan made his debut and performed his first comedy set at an open club in Boston in a place called Stitches. And apparently, the jokes were so awful that barely anyone was laughing. However, that first embarrassment did not stop him. And why? Because he loved comedy that much. He was still doing martial arts at the time and also stand-up comedy as well. He thought he had to pick one or the other. And since comedy in the long run has a better outcome in a way for him, Joe decided to actually go with the comedy instead of martial arts. Then, by the 90s, 2 years after that incident, he was now a full-time comedian in New York City. Joey's comedy style was mainly blue comedy, which consists of indecent and profane references, landing him multiple gigs at bachelor parties and even strip clubs. Then, after 6 years of comedy, in between 1988 and 1994, Joey Rogan relocated to Los Angeles, which is where things really started to pick up in his work life. And after 6 years of perfecting his craft, Joey was extremely skilled at comedy, which landed him his first role on national television with a show on MTV called Half Hour Comedy Hour.
Life's going pretty cool right now, but I gotta stop dating bimbos. It's like the biggest problem I have in my life right now. So I date too many bimbos.
He then used all of this experience on television to land on acting roles in his first ever TV show called Hardball. And if you remember, he was always the dude that would start causing trouble around, going around making jokes, crashing cars and stuff. You remember the show? Joey used that experience to land a role in a more notable TV show News Radio, appearing in 96 out of 97 episodes before the show was eventually canceled in 1999. And then, on top of all of this, Joey also became a regular at the Comedy Store in LA in 1997, an experience that he talks about all the time. But Joey explained that acting was not for him forever. He simply saw acting as a way to pay the bills while working on his comedy gigs. However, by the late 90s, an issue arose for him. The acting was kinda going down, and it resulted in the need of really doing something quick. When he was acting, Joe Rogan would also get interested in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, a fighting style popularized by Royce Gracie, who was a new fighter in the Ultimate Fighting Championship, aka the UFC. And Joey's manager, Jeff Sussman, knew the organizer of the UFC, which provided the opportunity to Joe Rogan to become a post-fight interviewer. And of course, Joey accepted the offer, and he did his first appearance in the UFC in 1997.
Thanks, Bruce. I'm back here right now backstage. I'll be interviewing the fighters as they come out of the octagon, and I'll also be previewing the fights, the final fights in each weight division. I'll be talking to the fighters. We'll find out who's injured, who's going to be able to continue, and who's going to go in if we need an alternate. Anything we need to know, as soon as I find out, you'll know. Back to you guys.
However, after only 2 years, Joe Rogan quit because he stated that the pay was not enough to cover for all of his expenses, and that between his comedy gig and commentating for the UFC, he was actually losing too much money. But after the president offered him and his buddies free prime tickets in exchange for the work, and after commenting 15 matches for free, Joey accepted the new pay for the job and was officially a UFC commentator again, which he continued until early 2000s.
Truly is an honor to welcome back to the broadcast team here on the Ultimate Fighting Championship, the host of NBC's Fear Factor, Joe Rogan, our old sideline guy, interviewing the fighters years ago, Joe.
Back again.
And after that, guess what happened?
Thanks for coming out. Fear Factor has been known for dreaming up some of the most outrageous and insane stunts you could possibly imagine.
Joe Rogan then started to host one of the biggest television show of the 2000s, which was called The Fear Factor. It was basically people going through hard challenges and winning cash prizes, and people loved the idea. Joe always thought the show was stupid and that it will never work, but it was a huge success. He explained that he got the job only because he treated the show just like a joke, thinking that it will never hit, and also thinking that he will, from all of that, at least get some material for his comedy gig. The show featured all sorts of challenges, like eating different kind of insects, car stunts, and many more disgusting features.
Fear Factor is back. Bigger budget, bigger stunts, more fear.
Oh my God.
However, around late 2004, Joey was getting pretty tired of making the show and stating that the show is getting pretty repetitive.
I was on like season 5 of Fear Factor. I remember thinking, I don't know how much longer I can do this.
What was it about it that it was just too much, repetitive?
It was the same thing over and over again. We did 148 episodes.
Right.
The show was then canceled a year later in 2005 with one more season, and all of that due to inappropriate stunts performed in one of the episodes. But this was not a bad thing actually for Joe, because he gained a lot of notoriety from it, a lot of fame, and a lot of power, and a lot of money. It gave Joe so much money that he never has to worry about money ever again. And since he was now famous from the Fear Factor, more people started to show up to his comedy shows compared to before the Fear Factor. And on top of this, Joe also said that focusing on television makes his creativity lazy and uninspired. So for this reason, in between 2005 and 2009, he retired completely from acting to actually focus now on producing. While commentating for the UFC still, Joe also hired 2 cameramen to film multiple comedy specials and random multimedia videos and content between 2005 and 2009. So throughout all of his endeavors, you can see that the artist is looking for himself. 2009, where Joe started a new inventor that pushed his name even further, turning the name Joe Rogan into a household name.
What do you think about doing a radio show of my own? I would love to do a radio show. The only problem is I don't think anybody wants to pay me to do a radio show. I might have to do a radio show like this because right now, I mean, Adam Carolla has a sweet setup where he does podcasts and he gets a lot of people to listen to it. And that might be the way to go.
The 21st of December 2009, Christmas Eve, the very first episode of the Joe Rogan podcast, live stream type thing. The very first episode of the Joe Rogan podcast begins on the website Ustream and promoted on the joerogan.net, which gave him a total of 200 regular listeners. The podcast began because Joe was forced to come back from Colorado to LA. He preferred the mountains and the nature over the too crowded LA, and that's why he decided to start podcasting. The idea for the podcast was that it would be like an old school kind of media and have a reaction platform only via chat or Twitter. And the initial idea was also that it would exclusively be Brian Redmond and Joe talking about various topics, but after only 2 episodes, they figured that they couldn't do it no more just like that. And then they decided to bring a comedian named Ari Shafir as the first ever guest on episode 3. From that point, Joey decided that the whole goal of the podcast is just to be talking to people that he liked talking to. And since most of his friends were actors, comedians, and martial art experts, the first guests in the podcast were people like Eddie Bravo, Joey Diaz, and Duncan Trussell. For the first 8 months of the podcast, the show didn't have a name. It was just called the Joe Rogan Podcast. However, in August 2010, the podcast was officially called the Joe Rogan Experience, which was a tribute to Jimi Hendrix. At the same point, the podcast really started to blow up. Joey realized that the growth of the podcast invited the opportunity to have more guests on the show, resulting in the appearance of people like Tim Ferriss, Sam Harris, Nick Kroll, Anthony Bourdain, and many more, proving that the podcast was more and more interesting than the average. And by late 2010, the Joe Rogan Experience was reaching around 11 million listeners worldwide per episode. The growth of the podcast then became even stronger, and so much so that by episode 300, Joey created the powerful Joe Rogan Experience YouTube channel with the intention of reaching a wider audience. At this point on YouTube, there were a very short amount of YouTube channels that were doing a long form kind of podcast only on their channel. So it was kind of a revolutionary way to do it. So to post longer videos was a risk. However, Joey did it anyway. And as soon as the YouTube channel was created, it was a huge hit. It started getting hundreds upon hundreds of subscribers to the point where he hit 100,000 subscribers in the first year and then 150,000 in the second year. And from there, it kept on just growing and growing so much to millions that we know of currently. And Joey also started to host famous individuals on his show that the audience knows already and that the audience already like, that they want to listen to.
And that's where delusion comes in, because delusion is only delusional when you don't accomplish the goal of making your delusions a reality.
Right.
That's when it's delusional.
I also know that I don't really know that much, and it's different every time anyway.
The podcast was such a revolutionary idea because people at this point have a new source of information throughout those podcasts, as well as the ability to observe their star or role model or whoever they are actually interested in listening to actually talk like a regular normal person in Joe Rogan's podcast. His interviews are so real and the discussions feel very refreshing compared to all the stuff we get on the media sometimes. Previously, the only way you could actually find anything on your role models, for example, or favorite actors was just by edited footage of interviews or high-pressure paparazzi action. The podcast deconstructed all of that and helped promote celebrities even more with being who they truly are without their fame right in the face. For this reason, Joey went from interviewing comedians, actors, and fighters to high-profile scientists, Hollywood movie stars and billionaires, free thinkers, philosophers, politicians, and many more. The Joe Rogan grew so much that he had to move from his home to an LA private studio in Huntington Hills in LA. Then in mid-2017, when the Joe Rogan Experience was at 1.5 million subscribers, the podcast hit 1,000 episodes, at which point Joey uploaded a video going over the many other milestones that have been achieved along the way, ultimately showcasing how far they have come. and since then, not much changed besides the notoriety of the guest and the production. The Joe Rogan continues to make more and more episodes throughout the years with many different personalities and people, which has kept the show ongoing and super fresh. Some of the most notable guests until today: Elon Musk, Dr. Phil, Jordan Peterson, Steve-O, and the list goes on and on and on and on. And not too long ago, he announced that he would move his podcast platform to Spotify instead of YouTube, a deal estimated to $200 million. So from September 2020, the podcast was exclusively on Spotify, and just a few short clips still appear on YouTube to promote the full show on Spotify. So they gave him a licensing deal and he's still the boss of all of it. Joey announced in 2020 that he was planning on moving out of LA to move to Texas. He completed the move in August 2020 with pictures of the new studio on his Instagram. And the more time goes, the more he smokes, chills, and invites more and more people to be totally natural during his interviews. He brings so many different people with different kind of views, from crazy to extreme to whatever. Joey keeps an open mind about everything, accepts the information he gets from these kind of people, listens, thinks, and replies with his own opinion. He might be wrong, he might be right, but at least that's an opinion. Just an opinion, and nothing to be fighting about. Just an opinion. So at the same time, it's super refreshing to see how other people think and compare them to our own. Because if we don't compare it to our own beliefs, we're always going to believe that everything is true, everything is perfect, everything is correct, but we all know about reality. So from a construction worker to a comedian to a taekwondo champion to an actor to an UFC commentator to a reality show star to the most powerful interviewer of all time, he's a free thinker with a super rare style that everybody loves, a man with a super set of skills that no one can replace. Joe Rogan is a living and breathing example that proves everything is possible. This was the story of the Joe Rogan Experience.
On the way home, we got on the bus, and while we were waiting there, my stomach started.
Thank you for staying in till the end of the video, guys. This was a heavy one, but super interesting video about Mr. Joe Rogan. Hope everybody liked the video. If you did, don't forget to comment down below, hit that like button, subscribe, the usual, and I'll see you next time. Thank you for watching.